Welcome to another star-studded, well, not really studded, star-reflecting episode of Recording in Progress, where we take the hard and fast world of pop culture, we slow it down, so we can take a moment and we can all progress together and record it, so we know how to progress going forward. My name's Larry, and I'm here with my man Jimothy Jesus. How are you doing, Jim?
Hey now. I have a Mortal Kombat arcade. How do you think I'm doing? Very well.
You're doing pretty good.
Pretty good.
So we opened with the Star Wars ska music because we got some Star Wars news, and we're going to open with some sad Star Wars news first. Peter Mayhew, the man behind the mask of Chewbacca, passed away. He suffered from a lot of illnesses because when you're really tall like that, your body's not designed to be that big, and you have health problems. So the obituary that was posted on his official Facebook reads as follows. The family of Peter Mayhew, with deep love and sadness, regrets to share the news that Peter has passed away. He left us the evening of April 30th, 2019, with his family by his side in his North Texas home. Peter was the man behind the mask of Chewbacca in the original Star Wars trilogy, Episode 3 of the prequels, and the new trilogy. He fought his way back from being wheelchair-bound to stand tall and portrayed Chewbacca once more in Star Wars The Force Awakens. He also consulted in The Last Jedi in an attempt to teach his successor. So just to put that into context, the Chewbacca in The Last Jedi was the new guy, which could be a reason why we didn't see a whole lot of Chewbacca, and he was the guy doing Chewbacca in Solo. He also consulted in The Last Jedi in an attempt to teach his successor. He put his heart and soul into the role of Chewbacca, and it showed in every frame of the films, from the knock-kneed running, firing his bowcaster from the hip, his bright blue eyes, down to each subtle movement of the head and mouth. But to him, the Star Wars family meant so much more to him than a role in the film. The relationships that began and grew into the friends and family that he would love for decades to come. As the films released and became more well-known, he had his eyes open to the possibilities of what he could achieve with this role in the Star Wars universe. For more than 30 years, Peter traveled all over the world, spending time with his fans and friends. Peter developed lifelong friendships with the other cast members and his fans while in the convention circuit, touring the lives of millions, touching the lives of millions, As he realized over the years the impact he could have, he became heavily involved with the 501st Legion, Wounded Warriors, Make-A-Wish, and other nonprofit organizations. To this end, he established the Peter Mayhew Foundation, supporting everything from individuals and families in crisis situation to food and supplies for children in Venezuela during their recent road to freedom. He not only provided funds, but also became personally involved with each individual family and cause he supported. As he grew older, he continued to soldier on, as he put it, and was completely in his element around his fans and supporters. He grew great strength, should be drew, but it says grew, from the energy of his family, friends, and the fans he knew and loved. He is survived by his wife Angie and 3 children. His kindness, generosity, and care will live on in the Peter Mayhew Foundation, with Angie taking the helm as his voice. There will be a memorial service held for friends and family on June 29th. In early December in Los Angeles, there will be a memorial for fans set up with his family in attendance, personal effects, and collection at Empire Con LA. So, the Wookiee is finally down.
Do you think he really died because of health issues, or did it just happen to see the first cut of episode 9?
Oof. Oh, that's a little bit of dark humor there. I think, it's just, really big guy doing acting, so he probably pushed his body a little too hard. Yep. So we're going to move into something else pushing a little too hard. Winnie-the-Pooh voice actor star accused of rape and animal abuse.
Oh.
Let's let that sit in for a moment, and let's just enjoy that headline, because it's a pretty great headline. And we're going to put a caveat. These accusations have come from an ex-wife, and ex-wives tend to be motivated by, not always by honesty, but sometimes they are. The ex-wife of the actor who voiced Winnie-the-Pooh has accused him of rape and animal abuse amid a bitter court battle, according to a new report. Stephanie Cummings alleges in court documents that her ex-husband, veteran voice actor Jim Cummings, has engaged in physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, including but not limited to death threats, rape, and various sexual deviant behavior forced upon me without my consent, which is also rape. Because of that whole without my consent. Since the couple divorced in 2011, The Blast reports. Meanwhile, Jim, 66, who has appeared in dozens of Disney cartoons, claims she is threatening to ruin his celebrated career, once telling him, I'm going to tell people Winnie-the-Pooh is a woman-beating, drug-addicted freak, according to the site. I'm now seeing an entirely interesting cartoon series about, Winnie-the-Pooh who's getting drunk on honey and beating up women. The couple is fighting over custody and support payments for their 2 daughters in Los Angeles court, where Stephanie is claiming her ex is a much smaller version of Harvey Weinstein, who isn't safe to be around their kids. Stephanie alleges Jim raped her in 2013 and sexually assaulted her on other occasions, saying, he often, without my consent, would touch my buttocks, my groin, and my breasts, and demanded sex from me in exchange for meeting his support obligations. Oof. That's not good.
No.
If that allegation is true. She claimed she wound up getting the first 2 restraining orders against him in 2011 after he allegedly slapped her butt in front of their then 4-year-old daughter, then forcefully put his hand on the back of my neck and kissed me while holding me in place against the wall. Oof. On another occasion, she claims he said he was allowed to touch mommy's breasts since he paid for them. Let's take a moment to digest this, because, there's more article here, but that's some pretty solid accusations there.
I should be able to touch them. I paid for them.
Forcing, in court documents, Jim accused her of obscene distortions. Forcing, please, everyone, Gracie, myself, and especially you, were all giggling and laughing. It was pleasant to have one moment of lightheartedness. We both erupted into laughter. He wrote, per the site. Stephanie said she ended up moving with her daughters to Utah in 2017 to escape the situation. But when Jim came to stay so he could visit the kids, she woke up one night to find him standing over me with his erect penis in my hand, while one of the girls was asleep beside her. She then obtained a second restraining order, according to the site. Stephanie also alleges Jim abused their family puppy, once shattering its hip with a broom, and on another occasion placing it inside a metal bucket outside of the house. Wow. On a day in which it was over 100 degrees, then left it there for a long time until it came close to dying.
Oh my God.
He acknowledges in court documents that he put the pooch in a tub as a form of discipline, and then forgot it was there for a while, but the pet was ultimately fine. Stephanie says they originally split because Jim was abusing alcohol, marijuana, and Adderall.
And
that since then, he showed up at her home uninvited while intoxicated or high on Adderall, but he countered that he had never taken the drug. Jim said that he tried to resolve the dispute with his ex amicably, but she has outbursts of hostility directed at me, including last year when he refused to take her to the premiere of Disney's movie Christopher Robin. So,
which was a good movie.
Yeah, so this is
more decent movie around there. So,
what do you think about these almost comically frightening accusations?
Tiggers don't like rape. Or Tiggers don't like rape. Yeah. What is happening?
I had to type something to somebody. Somebody sent me a message on the Discord.
Trash.
So yeah, this is pretty effed up.
Yeah.
But this is we're gonna use this as a little life lessons tie in with our good friend Mr. Nick Cage, who has a little Vegas oopsie. Nick Cage's wife of 4 days asked for spousal support in ongoing divorce.
Uh-oh. He's going to be making a whole lot of more shitty movies now, right?
And I think this picture on Nicolas Cage's face perfectly summarizes probably his emotional state.
He's like, fuck, I'm going to have to do another Ghost Rider movie.
Being married for 4 days.
Carry on.
Being married for 4 days.
Be professional.
Yes. Being married for 4 days should be sufficient for garnering some spousal support, or at least that's what Nick Cage's ex-wife of 4 days is arguing. According to TMZ, makeup artist Erica Koki filed legal documents which responded to Cage's filing for an annulment in March. That annulment, in the case it is not clear from that sentence, was put together just 4 days after the pair had a Vegas wedding. At the time, Cage stated that he reacted on impulse and without the ability to recognize or understand the full impact of his action. He also contended that the marriage was predicated on fraud. The doomed relationship represents the 4th time that marriage has not worked out for Nicolas Cage. Anyway, Cookie's legal reps responded to the Oscar winner's annulment attempt by saying that those impulsive actions don't matter. Cookie also said the relationship is legit, as she claims Cage asked her to start over in the right way less than 2 weeks after the paperwork was filed. TMZ adds that she agreed that divorce is the right for the pair, but she wants spousal support. Her legal documents go on to claim that she's lost career opportunities and suffered reputational damage due to the relationship and Cage's subsequent accusations. In addition to spousal support, she also wants him to pony up for legal fees. The two have been dating since April of 2018 and got married on March 23, 2019. However, on the day of said marriage, they reportedly got into a heated argument shortly before exchanging vows. A source told the Daily Mail that Cage caused a scene during the initial courthouse visit, and he appeared to be inebriated. I wonder if that's probably the legal argument you want to go to. Your Honor, I was drunk and on cocaine the time I got married, so I was not able to make a culpable legal decision.
Or better yet, I just got done making Wicker Man. Please forgive me. It was
not the bees.
I was on a series of bad decisions at the time. I was not of right or sound mind.
Apparently, that was a red flag. They started by filing the application in one of the machines, said a witness to the Daily Mail. The whole time he was yelling, "She's going to take all my money, and her ex is a druggie. Her ex is a druggie." The woman only kept saying, "Baby, I'm not asking you to do this." No, I don't think you were, because he didn't want you to take all his money.
Yeah,
so,
but did he put his dick in her hand while she was sleeping?
No, he didn't do that. So, what do you know about getting out of marriage in Las Vegas?
Nothing. I've never woke up married. I don't know anybody who has woke up married. I think that's just a meme.
Or, you don't know people who showed up in Vegas and got super drunk and then got Vegas married.
Nope. Not even sure that really happens. That's something that you would see on like an episode of The Big Bang, but not in real life.
Or, NCIS Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And now that we're going from a low point of feminism, let's go to a high point of feminism. Amy Pascal ends 30-year Sony run with Universal first look deal. So for those of you who are like going, who's Amy Pascal? Well, she used to run Sony Pictures until she screwed up Spider-Man. And the whole, Sony email hack scandal thing happened on her watch. So she became a senior producer at Sony, responsible for the deal with Marvel to bring Spider-Man home. She was also responsible for, the female Ghostbusters movie, which was not a good decision. And she was responsible for Into the Spider-Verse. So she has learned the hard way how to play in a cinematic universe, and now she's going over to Universal. Exclusive, ending a 3-decade run at Sony Pictures, Amy Pascal is moving her Pascal Pictures into a first-look deal with Universal Pictures. Deal comes at the end of a 4-year producing pact Pascal made at Sony in June 2015 when she stepped down as chairman of the Sony Pictures Motion Picture Group after 20 years at the helm. Led by Universal Filmed Entertainment Group chairman Donald Langley, the studio is making substantial commitment to the next chapter of Pascal's career. In Pascal's most recent iteration as a Sony-based producer, her credits include the Oscar-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the Oscar-nominated The Post and Molly's Game, as well as blockbusters Venom and Spider-Man Homecoming. Upcoming Spider-Man Far From Home and the Greta Gerwig-directed Little Women, which opens Christmas Day. with a cast that includes Emma Watson, Cerise Ronan, and Meryl Streep. Pascal will continue to produce the sequels and is partnered with Phil Lord and Chris Miller on the Spider-Man universe spin-off for TV and an arsenal of products she either acquired directly with Sony money or her discretionary funds. Pascal will be joined by her lieutenant, Rachel O'Connor, a longtime Sony creative exec, who joined her when Pascal first formed her shingle. Pascal will start off at Universal with a blank slate, and she said an admiration for the creative team there and the risks they take regularly in their slates. Pascal watched as Langley saw the potential and acted decisively on such properties as Straight Outta Compton and Get Out. They've never worked together before, beyond when 2 years ago Pascal and Donald DeLine shared the Producers Guild Awards and presented Langley with the prestigious Milestone Awards. So, what do you think about the possibility of somebody who knows how to run cinematic universes coming over to Universal Pictures?
Are they going to try to salvage the Dark Universe?
That's a distinct possibility.
I don't think
but
so.
Also,
I think it's dead.
Universal has had things like James Bond, so they have had properties that are cinematic universable, if that's even an expression.
I think you just coined it.
Exactly.
Hopefully, there's. I just hope there's an Us cinematic universe. That'd be great. I'd watch all of them. That's a Universal property.
And on other sad and depressing news, former Child Show star Rick Schroeder arrested for punching his girlfriend in Los Angeles.
Who?
Rick Schroeder from Silver Spoons and various other things. But life at this stage of his career has not done him well. Actor Rick Schroeder was busted early Wednesday for allegedly punching his girlfriend, according to a report and police. Cops were called to the Los Angeles home of the 49-year-old former NYPD Blue actor. Do you remember NYPD Blue?
I remember the show. I don't remember watching it.
Exactly. After around 12:40 a.m. Wednesday, for reports of domestic violence incident, a spokeswoman for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department confirmed to the Post. Authorities interviewed Schroeder and the victim and identified evidence of a physical altercation, the spokeswoman said. Schroeder was then arrested for felony domestic violence. The victim, who TMZ identified as Schroeder's girlfriend, refused medical treatment at the scene. According to the celebrity gossip website, Schroeder allegedly punched his girlfriend in the face when she tried to leave the home. That's not a good decision.
No, I'm looking at a picture of him. I'm looking at a picture of him from Silver Spoons. He kind of looks like a Cousin Oliver. So
Exactly.
That's what I thought it was at first.
Schroeder has previously done this on April 2nd and was arrested then for felony domestic violence. So that's an oopsie doopsie.
Yeah. I wonder if is he still going to get his planet?
I don't know,
because he is a Mormon.
Well, that's true. You know, you get your own little planet where you can be God over it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that applies to people who punch their girlfriends.
Yeah. But we were talking about Us. We got a little Us-related news in the mix. It's almost like Jim and I, we don't actually plan it that way, but we just have a real sync. This is Us creator Dan Fogelman, rumored to be the new Indiana Jones 5 screenwriter. The saga, the fifth Indiana Jones film, seems to add a new wrinkle every few months. This all started with Steven Spielberg saying the latest entry in the iconic franchise would be his next film. Then came word that the script was being overhauled and the film was being pushed to summer 2021. Now there's a rumor that the overhauled script is getting tossed out in favor of a new one. At this point, you have to wonder if Indy 5 is ever going to see the light of day. According to a rumor posted by Making Star Wars, not a major source of indie news in the past, but a trusted source on many things, John Kasdan, who you might know from the movie Solo, for making a droid-sexual Lando Calrissian, who was brought on to rewrite the latest film in the Harrison Ford franchise, has been replaced by Dan Fogelman, who co-created Us. We'll start from scratch with a new script. So, Fogelman is best known... Oh, it's for a different Us. For This Is Us.
Yeah, I was...
However, he's also...
Just because it has the word...
I was confused. Oh, it's like they tricked me. However, he has an extensive history in screenwriting of films like Cars, Fred Claus, Tangled, and Crazy Stupid Love. So, what do you think about the rewrite of Indiana Jones 5?
I don't know. Wait. Oh yeah, this would be 5. No, I want to pass. The Crystal Skull was so bad. Just no. This is us.
You're saying you need to drink some Crystal Skull vodka to sort out your feeling about Indiana Jones 4?
Yeah, that's what I love about here's a tip for anybody who's thinking about starting a distillery and you're going to advertise your beverages on various media, including television or YouTube. Is you should make a 20-minute long advertisement for it, but take 10 minutes of that time to talk about things unrelated to the spirit that you're selling.
Exactly, but it is related to the spirit that he's selling, if you will.
Oh, yeah, not you're equivocating, but okay. Anyways,
Well, no, I was making a different spirit reference.
yeah. I know. The equivocation was the joke.
Oh. So now we're going to go back to a topic we've had some fun discussing in the past.
It's hot here. I'm sorry.
It's hot in here?
Yeah, I had to open up a window.
Okay. So we're talking about good old internet censorship and how large What? Well, I was actually going to do another line before I made that joke. So what is that music?
Oh, I had to open up my window. It was getting a little hot in here. I think that's Clown World outside. I'm sorry.
And who better to kick off talking about censorship and Clown World but clowns Alex Jones, Louis Farrakhan, and others have been banned from Facebook and Instagram. Bans come as Facebook has pledged to do more to eliminate hate speech on its platform. Facebook announced Thursday it has plans to ban a group of far-right media personalities as well as Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan from its social network and Instagram. The ban affects Alex Jones and Milo Yiannopoulos and other far-right figures in the conspiracy and far-right politics website.
It's being really obnoxious. I gotta close my window. Keep going.
Yeah, gotta close the window.
Yeah.
The social media previously removed 4 pages belonging to Jones in August 2018 due to violations of the platform's community standards. Despite his initial ban on Facebook, Jones had remained active on Instagram, where his account recently pushed a conspiracy theory about former Vice President Joe Biden. It was one of the most engaged posts across both social media networks in the past few days, according to the social media analytics tool CrowdTangle. We've always banned individuals or organizations that promote or engage in violence and hate, regardless of ideology, except for Hamas, which, is on Facebook, and Hezbollah, which, is on Facebook and other sites. But, the process for evaluating potential violators is extensive, and it's what led us to our decision to remove these accounts today, a Facebook spokesman said in a statement. Jones on his website Thursday called Facebook's decision a purge and broadcast a monologue focused on former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Bans come as Facebook has pledged to do more to eliminate hate speech on its platform. The company recently banned white nationalism and white supremacy from the platform. Facebook has also faced calls to ban Farrakhan, who has been criticized for anti-Semitic remarks and speeches.
No,
also,
you don't say.
He's also promoted the Space Brothers, exterminating all white people. But that's not something to be banned for on Facebook, apparently.
No.
Is it because Space Brothers aren't real?
Perhaps.
While Facebook and other technology companies, including Twitter and Google, have taken a more aggressive stance against hate speech in recent months, almost like they're collaborating together, they've also had to tread lightly due to growing outcry over what conservatives see as political bias in the California-based companies. Republicans in Congress are among those who have pressured the companies over their treatment of conservative commentators. At a hearing last month, Senator Ted Cruz said there could be penalties under antitrust law if the companies abuse their powers to censor speech online. It's not clear how Congress would react to Facebook's most recent action. Cruz's office did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Civil rights organizations have pushed the companies to step up their enforcement against hate speech, saying Silicon Valley needed to pick a size after a series of violent racial conflicts, including a 2017 rally by white supremacists in Charlottesville, Virginia, in which a counter-protester was killed. So, Jim, we're kind of torn here because Alex Jones is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would say the same thing for
and
Milo. He's a useful.
Milo's a little less
Yeah,
terrible than
yeah.
Alex Jones.
But he's kind of
And
he was useful, terrible for a while though.
and Louis Farrakhan is a horrible bigot and a terrible human being
Mm-hmm.
who allegedly was responsible for the murder of Malcolm X.
Allegedly,
Allegedly.
a big
So,
allegedly. I don't want to get sued or killed by this dude.
exactly. So, on the one hand, Jim and I say these are bad people who should certainly be punished. But on the other hand, Jim and I are also very clear on the fact that we could be next. Any one of us could be next. Because, as Mark Wade recently said, white nationalism and white supremacy has a very broad spectrum. And if it's a very broad spectrum, they'll just coming after people until they are forced to stop.
But it doesn't. It doesn't have a broad spectrum. It's very narrow.
Or maybe these people are saying it because they have a broad spectrum.
Or maybe they're on the spectrum.
Or maybe they're on the spectrum. However,
And
we're going to jump. We're going to jump a little bit down to the Nick Monroe tweet, because of course Nick Monroe has, as usual, when it's coming to people getting censored on the internet, our boy Nick is he's on the case.
Okay, got it.
The process for evaluating violators is extensive. What's led to the powers today? Where do I sign up for my ideological purity test in order to prove myself to the big tech brotherhood? And blood black nothingness begin to spin a system of cells, initially linked with cells and unlinked. Oh, okay. And he did a nice little reference to the recent Blade Runner. And they also said here, as someone pointed out, is Alex Jones, Milo, InfoWars, Paul Joseph Watson, Laura Loomer, Paul Nealon, and Louis Farrakhan. None of them have been alerted as violating any of the existing terms of service. They just decided to deplatform them. And the InfoWars is subject to the strictest ban. Any account that shares InfoWars content will see that content removed. If an account violates terms on multiple occasions, it will be banned.
Look, I'm not the biggest fan of Alex Jones. I think he's awful. His website's awful. The shit he says is awful. But it's not Chris Cantwell type of awful, which is what they're trying to pin it as.
Yep.
It's different kind of. It's just kind of conspiracy theory bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram will remove any content containing InfoWars videos, radio segments, or articles. And Facebook will remove any group set up to share InfoWars content and events promoting it. Any of the banned extremist figures, according to a company spokesperson.
Well, hey, if I'm not allowed to read it, it must be good, right? Well, my parents told me I shouldn't look at Playboy. And that just made me want to look at it more.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a really time-dated reference. All right. How about for you youngins?
However,
my parents didn't want me to watch Bang Bus. That made me want to watch it more.
Here's a little fun twist. Idly wondering why Facebook did not ban Jones Farrakhan at all from WhatsApp. It's almost like this is a big stunt. And let's see here, anything else? These are now classified as dangerous individuals and organizations. Laura Loomer texted a friend of hers and said, "What's the point of life anymore? I'd rather kill myself than to let them take the victory lap."
I don't think that's what she actually said. I think that was a misquote. I think she said she would rather kill herself than go to Gab. I think that's what the accurate quote was.
Well, yeah.
Come on, guys. Get your
Also,
quotes
related
right.
to the general collaboration going on, Atlantic, The Verge, CNN, and The Washington Post posted this story within a minute of each other, and Atlantic had a complicated Photoshop of the people banned. This is weird news. So not only were these people all banned, they alerted the news media to the fact that they were going to be banned.
Huh.
Also, I saw elsewhere, and I don't have the link for it, that Facebook said it would allow people to post negative things about InfoWars and videos that use InfoWars content to mock it, but you can't get pure, unadulterated InfoWars. Facebook did not disclose all of the incidents that led to the account's removal, saying that it had made the decision following a period of review. Decisions took into account the group's behavior both on and offline. So you can be banned for your offline behavior, the company said. Factors for the removal included engaged in acts of hate or violence, calling for or carrying out acts of hate, violence rooted in racial or ethnic prejudice, describing themselves as the follower of a hateful ideology, or using hate speech or slurs in their profiles. Having pages or groups removed previously can also lead to account removal. But the company did point to some of the actions leading up to the account's removal. First in December and again in February, Jones appeared in video with the Proud Boys founder, Gavin McInnes. Facebook has designated McInnes a hate figure. Yiannopoulos publicly praised McInnes and far-right activist Tommy Robinson, who Facebook has designated as a hate figure. Loomer appeared with McInnes in December and more recently declared her support for far-right activist Faith Goldie, who was banned after posting racist videos on her account.
Gavin McInnes can be a real shit show. How is he a hate figure?
I don't know. We are, in fact, deep into clown world. But we have a hero who's willing to challenge the corruption of clown world, Faux Shizzle. Snoop Dogg berates Facebook for banning Louis Farrakhan. I stand by him. Now, this sub-headline is pretty great on the Washington Times. Facebook removes Farrakhan along with right-wing figures as dangerous. Snoop Dogg rushed to the defense of Louis Farrakhan after the Nation of Islam leader was booted from Facebook, calling him my dear brother and declaring that I stand with him. The rapper who joined the Nation of Islam in 2009. It's kind of weird how you join the Nation of Islam and you smoke weed there, Snoop. Blasted the Thursday decision by Facebook to remove Mr. Farrakhan's account, along with others to promote or engage in violence, hate, regardless of ideology. So Facebook and Instagram just banned Minister Louis Farrakhan, said Snoop Dogg in an Instagram post. I want to know what for. All he's ever do was tell the truth. But y'all going to ban him now? So are they going to ban Snoop Dogg?
I think he might be a little bit out of the loop since he's been spending most of his life living in a gangster's paradise.
Could be.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, that's Coolio. Sorry.
He added, for putting truth out there, I stand with him. Ban me, mother effer. Ban me. And he urged his supporters to take action on social media. Post your favorite Minister Farrakhan video on Facebook or Instagram page, Snoop Dogg. In another Instagram
I
message,
would, but I don't have the video of Malcolm X getting assassinated.
Mr. Farrakhan, as well as right-wing personalities Alex Jones, Laura Loomer, and Milo Yiannopoulos were banned Thursday as dangerous persons from both Facebook and Instagram, but not WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook. So's WhatsApp. We've always banned individuals or organizations that promote or engage in violence and hate, regardless of ideology. You know what's a great way to engage in violence? Using applications like WhatsApp, like we're using the Arab Spring to organize social disruption. Said the Facebook statement, the process for evaluating potential violators is extensive, and it is what led us to our decision to remove these accounts today.
So does Islam actually have a prohibition on marijuana? Someone in the chat's pointing out that no, it's just alcohol that they have an issue with.
It's broader. I would argue that technically they have a violation against intoxication, which would cover marijuana. But at the same point in time, you could argue marijuana and hashish help bring you into a transcendental state. So it really depends on your sect of Islam. Of course, you know, the Nation of Islam is kind of weird. So different. And the rules are different. So we have some interesting corruption going on at the YouTube. And you're posting the Jeremy Johns picture
Yep,
first.
got it. I'm on it.
So,
No boomer
so Jeremy
moments.
Johns, who is one of the most normie tier reviewers, although I will say, unlike a lot of other normie tier reviewers, he's not a complete and total shill for the studio system.
Yeah, I mean, he hangs out with
Uh,
a lot of those shills, and when they start chilling, he's just like, I didn't think it was that great. I saw him
yeah.
do that a few times. We're like,
So if
all
he goes,
right.
I don't think it was that great.
Yeah.
That's your sign to know that something bad's about to happen in this movie.
Mm.
He was demonetized talking about the massive box office of Avengers Endgame.
Oh.
And I imagine once this gets manually reviewed, because he's a bigger boy in the YouTube ecosystem, we're going to see a little
It
bit of
did
a
get
dial
manual
back.
review. This is after manually reviewing your video. We've confirmed that it isn't suitable. That's what they do
Yeah.
when you say like, this is BS. I want you to review it manually. And they went, okay, we just reviewed it manually. No, it's just yeah. But he can still earn money for people, the 10 people that have YouTube Red. One of which being me because I like Google Music.
But there's a great idea on how we can go get our video to do better. Just randomly run up on the CEO of YouTube. So Justin Wang got a little clip of video of Juice WRLD, who's some kind of rapper, who's complaining that he didn't have enough subscribers for the No Jumper vlog. To which the CEO of YouTube said, "We gotta get your subscriber numbers way up. We're gonna make it happen. We're here for you, however we can. You have no idea. Must be nice." So, what do you think, Jim? Should we fly to San Francisco and stalk the CEO of YouTube to get our video views up?
Yeah, maybe we should.
I mean, it's a closer trip for you, so like you could do like the pre-stalking. And no, for any automated bots that are listening on YouTube, we are not going to pre-stalk the CEO of YouTube.
No.
That's what's called comedy. Comedy. We make jokes around here.
Oh,
We make some jokes.
we got jokes.
And it's related to Avengers Endgame. The adventures of Fat Thor are going to continue.
Oh, yes.
Avengers Endgame star Chris Hemsworth says he'll play Thor for as long as Marvel will let him.
Yes. Hopefully as a Fat Thor.
Well, I think in Guardians 3, they're probably going to have him as Fat Thor because that's more comedic.
Or they're probably going to get him and Chris Pratt to start working out together. It's probably going to be a little montage scene.
Exactly.
I have a feeling that this is going to happen because I don't know if you. I just recently watched Infinity War again, and one of the things in there was like, yeah, you're like one sandwich away from being fat. So have I gained weight? All right, I'm getting a Bowflex.
That's kind of deep. That's a kind of deep cut there. That's insightful, Mr. Jim.
Yeah, maybe it's all leading to that.
Hemsworth, in an interview with the Australian media, said, "I'd play this character for as long as anybody would let me." Hemsworth said, "I've loved it so much, but the combination of this many characters in Phase 3, as Marvel calls it, you'll never have this interaction with this many people again. Who knows what the future holds and whether they do prequels and sequels or whatever, but I'd be open to anything. But right now, this is where we finish up." So Hemsworth officially is operating without a contract, but he's negotiating out in public to keep going.
Happy about that.
I honestly say Fat Thor would be a thing that would make me want to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3 more than I already want to watch it.
Mm-hmm. And can we get Taika Waititi involved in the new Guardians?
Well, he's trying to negotiate for Thor 4.
Nice.
So I don't know what exactly they're going to end up producing for that.
Yeah, Taika Waititi is great. If you haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows, the movie, I haven't seen the TV show yet. Maybe
But we need to do that.
Yeah,
we need to get
put that
on
in the list. Yeah.
Because that's something that I think is in both of our wheelhouses of the thing we both enjoy.
Yeah.
So, Jim, we're going to talk about a serious subject on the internet.
Oh, no.
What is a Mary Sue to you, Jim?
Mary Sue is usually a female character who is kind of like the final boss, but the protagonist as well. Who just never has any issues moving along, never faces any struggles, just goes and just beats everybody up who gets in her way. and whatever means that be it intellectually or physically or whatever their issue is. And they don't seem to have many problems. There's not really like that arc that happens where there's a downside, unless it's things happening around them. But then they go and fix all of those things.
So Saladin Ahmed took a break
is that a good accurate representation of what the term means?
Well, I'll get into my definition here in a little bit.
Okay.
So part of the problem we're having on the internet is nobody can agree on what the term means anymore. So Saladin Ahmed says Walter White is a Mary Sue. For those of you who don't know, Saladin is busy ruining Marvel Comics, starting primarily from the Miss Marvel comic series, and he's bringing in a lot of weird left-wing politics. So a Mary Sue is a character that's primarily female, though they do have special labeled versions, the Gary Stu or the Mikey Stu, but it's usually a female character who has no discernible negative traits, who doesn't struggle, who gets everything she wants whenever she wants it, and everybody loves her and emotionally validates her, even the bad guys. So, would you say Walter White is a Mary Sue?
No, he always had struggles. He always lost.
He had flaws. He was a terrible person.
Flaws. Yes. And not too many people liked him, up to and including his closest associate, Jesse, nor his wife and his family liked him either. Well, they did for like the first half of the series, and then they started turning on him slowly.
But also, weighing in on this issue is good old Rian Johnson.
Oh, no.
So C. Robert Cargill argues that Mary Sue is a term that gets abused as women who does something unexpectedly awesome. No, that's not what's going on. When it specifically means character who never fails when trying and is always better than the other exceptional characters around them. So here's what Rian Johnson says. It's impossible to separate the term from its bad faith use. The term itself is rooted in sexist bullshit. It needs to die. And in commenting on the website Mary Sue, I like the site and don't want to speak for them, but my assumption is that they are ironically appropriating a vile and essentially sexist term, which is one of the reasons I like them. Now, somebody countered back to him and said the male version of the term is Gary Stu or Larry Stu. Mary Stu by itself is not sexist, it merely has a gender-specific use, like his or her, he or she, Gary Stu or Mary Sue, to which Rian Johnson says bullshit. So, another thing that happened recently is Game of Thrones had a terrible episode where Arya Stark, as part of an 8-year character arc, assassinated the big bad of the series. Even though it was supposed to be her brother who was supposed to kill the big bad of the series, and people were writing articles. Not people with big, broad fan bases or people who were really engaged in the fandom, but people were writing the articles saying, is Arya Stark a Mary Sue? To which everybody said, no, that's stupid. She spent 8 years training to be an assassin after watching most of her family get murdered. So, why do you think these horribly disingenuous people are changing what Mary Sue means?
Well, I think Rian Johnson has a personal interest, considering that he's involved in the Star Wars trilogy saga, the new one.
At its core, an element about being a Mary Sue is an immature writer. A writer who doesn't understand how to get pathos, logos, or ethos out of their writing, who doesn't know how to achieve, catharsis in their writing. And so the way that you prevent people from being critical of that is by making the criticism a blurry, gendered assault in #current year. But these wonderful people have taken it another step further. So this guy I was randomly talking to on the internet, who is also a YouTuber like us, he has less followers than me, said, a movie not explaining something to you is not a plot hole. A movie not explaining something to you is not a plot hole. A movie not explaining something to you is not a plot hole. A movie not explaining something to you is not a plot hole. To which I responded, but if you need to have the plot make sense or flow, then it is. To which he responds, nope. In order for it to be a plot hole, it has to encounter previously established information. By their nature, unanswered questions can't do that. So again, we're trying to take terms that are used that are very understandable and easily to reach for people outside of literature and art and film to be critical and, embrace their voice against large billion-dollar companies who are ruining pop culture and things that people, have fun with. They're throwing in the trash. Yes, control over language is control over culture. That's exactly what's going on. These bad people in bad faith are trying to change our culture, and by manipulating our language. We're going to take a little break from these terrible people, however, and talk about a different kind of terrible person who still hasn't gotten me my wasabi chicken wings yet to my table. Now UKIP candidate who said he wouldn't even rape a Labour MP says it's okay to sexually to sexually abuse boys. Police are examining sickening statements about child abuse made by highly controversial UKIP candidate. Carl Benjamin was formally adopted by the party as a candidate for the European elections last week, despite the fury over his remarks that he wouldn't even rape a Labour MP. Now, a senior UKIP source told the Mail on Sunday that they have passed a dossier to Wiltshire police containing deeply offensive remarks by Mr. Benjamin, an online vlogger from Swindon, who refers to himself as Sargon of Akkad. And you can see here's the suit he's on when he's supposed to be getting me my food. And the insider says the dossier was passed to the UKIP's ruling National Executive Council last autumn, but no action was taken. Basically, based on information that it's reasonable here in some of these articles, UKIP knew that Sargon was a garbage person, and they knew about all of these things. It includes a YouTube broadcast in which Mr. Benjamin says, "I can be quoted as saying, you can F young boys." It's actually not as controversial as you think. Depends on the child, doesn't it? The ancient Greeks were pederasts. It was considered to be normal. It was mentoring. The dossier also includes a screenshot of a social media message which Benjamin says he needs something to really trigger outrage, adding, "Do you have any underage porn or child porn? I will delete it fast so nobody gets in trouble."
Oh my god.
The unnamed recipient responds, "Dude, what the F?" The case of documents also includes a racist pornographic tweet Benjamin posted showing a white woman having sex with 3 black men, on which he wrote, "So this is your sister." This was him responding to some white racists. Benjamin was banned from Twitter in 2017, even though he uses multiple sock puppet accounts on Twitter for violating the platform's rules on targeted abuse. Last night, when asked about the child sex remarks, which he made in 2014, Benjamin, who was standing for the EU Parliament's South West England constituency, said, "It was an abstract conversation. You are a dirty, dirty smear merchant." He added that he believed that the age of consent should be 18, which is not what he said in that video. The source, who has been interviewed by the police about the material, said party leadership was fully aware of this as long ago as September, and not only did they do nothing about it, but the party allowed Benjamin to join and become a lead candidate. I will swear an affidavit to that effect. Also, the UKIP is currently polling underneath the other category on polls, and actually, let me see if we actually have news of those elections. I don't know if they're actually done or not, so I just want to check.
Well, you don't need to worry because I have my window open still. I'm sure they can hear the wonderful, wonderful Clown World music.
Yes, and Nigel Farage broke off to form his own party, which is kind of weird since he was one of the big guys that brought Sargon into the party.
You're saying he's a big guy?
For you.
Okay.
But a lot of the people who were involved in the decision for Sargon to come into the party have all left the party and joined the Brexit party. So this may have been a producers-like scheme to ruin a political party in a country. Also, related Clown World news, for his other partner in crime, Tommy Robinson swings punches at man after a milkshake thrown over his head. Now, what the article doesn't tell you is that he'd actually had it thrown at him on several occasions. Exclusive, far-right extremist, real name Stephen Yaxley Lennon, was in Warrington this afternoon when he was covered in a McDonald's milkshake for the second time in 2 days. Just a second. I would also note you should probably mute the tab because it's got autoplay video because the mirror doesn't understand that that's wrong. You should not autoplay your videos. The far-right extremist was campaigning in Warrington, Cheshire when the McDonald's drink was swung at his head. Robinson, no names even Langley, reacted by appearing to throw several punches at the man before being pulled away. The 36-year-old English Defence League founder had a strawberry milkshake thrown over him in Bury on Wednesday. The footage obtained by the Mirror Online, Robinson could be seen talking with an Asian man whom the Mirror identified as Danielle in Warrington Town Centre shortly after 3 p.m. today. Robinson appears to be referring to video footage of earlier aggressive behavior while Danny shakes his head. The only person unclear was pushed as a woman. So what do you think that... Do garbage people like Sargon and Tommy deserve to not be assaulted?
You're pulling at two different strings. Like, my political position is it's a bad idea, and it's also a bad strategy to inflict or advocate for infliction of violence against people that you disagree with. But at the same time, I don't know so much about Tommy Robinson, but Sargon definitely has a very punchable face. So there's a little bit of conflict. I mean, obviously not, but...
And also, what do you think about Nigel Farage basically nuking his political party by bringing in these horrible people?
Yeah, it looks like they wanted to suicide the group. So it's just like, you just bring all the memers and shit posters on the internet. Just let them run for office.
And then he quit, which is the fascinating thing.
Oh, don't worry, I'm careful. Don't worry, Micros, I'm careful.
That's right. Again, Jim was only making a comment saying that Sargon has a punchable face as a humorous comment.
Yeah.
Because if Jim were ever to run for public office, nobody would take umbrage with him saying, yeah, Sargon has a really punchable face. And everyone's like, yeah, he kind of does.
Yeah. So, but like, I've been critical of Richard Spencer long before most people even knew what that was, or who he was, or what the alt-right was, or any of these things. And then when he got punched, I said, "Hey, as much as a shitty person that this dude is, you just made him a household name. So, congratulations." Yeah.
Congratulations, you just played yourself.
Yeah, you just played yourself.
So, Jim, do you want to get into some vicarious comic books through me?
Sure.
So, DC Comics censors Michael
Sorry,
Turner's...
I had to close my window. It's getting a little hot in here.
DC Comics censors Michael Turner's iconic artwork of Wonder Woman and Artemis in new Walmart reprints. DC Comics reportedly censored a number of their older comics and reprinted updated versions. Fans, including Vito Gisuldi, noticed that DC Comics is now covering up some of its female characters in past art, such as Wonder Woman and Artemis. Characters are being covered up to expose less skin than before. So
if they're okay with having all those muscle magazines
exactly
on display. I'm just saying.
And also, the cover artist isn't doing anything that actually fits the style of the art. So it's not even a good cover-up job. Another user correctly pointed out that this is Michael Turner's artwork from Superman Batman by Jeff Loeb and Michael Turner. It was originally published in 2004. And this is, again, censor and censorship of art. These new reprints are part of an exclusive deal DC Comics cut with Walmart last year.
Yeah, that's not
the censored art. Yeah, the censored artwork takes place in Walmart DC's giant-sized Superman 9 and 10. It's unclear at the time if Walmart required the censorship in order to sell the issues or if it was the publisher initiative from DC Comics. For decades, artists have drawn women to appeal more to the young male demographic, often facing censorship. Jim Steranko's run on Nick Fury in the 70s was heavily censored and notoriously edited to cut out what the Comics Code deemed too lurid and sexy. Much of the censorship went away in the 80s and 90s to make room for greater amounts of mature content, even mainline titles at DC and Marvel. The rise of edgier characters and their creators at Image and Dark Horse came about at this time, but the pendulum appears to be swinging back in the other direction. DC Comics' censorship of older artwork appears to follow suit. In the swing backwards for the fandom, this could be aimed more at American audiences. So in America, Sony America put in place a policy to censor Japanese video games and released on the PlayStation 4 in the USA. Reasons given were protecting children. So again, let's look at those images there. So children can't stand to look at a woman's bathing suit, because that's basically what those are.
Yeah.
Those are slightly attractive women's bathing suits versus mom bathing suits. Coincidentally,
Well, I mean, the last one looks more like a what are they, like a aerobics?
Yeah.
What do they used to call it? Like a jazzercise outfit.
Yeah, exactly.
Jazzercise.
So coincidentally, the United Nations stated their intent this year was to impose an initiative internationally to combat child exploitation and pornography. This initiative brings an added risk of a crackdown on anime and manga, which is highly loose and sensationalized thematically based on the standards set forth by the UN. Other works like popular novels, famous movies, and cartoons could also fall victim. Depictions of women in comics have met more scrutiny ever since Gail Simone coined the phrase women refrigerator syndrome, which was a dishonest lie, taken from an issue of Green Lantern number 54, 1994, in which one of Kyle Rayner's enemies killed and dismembered his girlfriend, Alex DeWitt, before stuffing her body parts in Kyle's fridge. In fact, DC Comics faced criticism for the now infamous Batgirl cover, which homaged the Killing Joke. The callouts of rage against the cover resulted in Raphael Albuquerque stating he asked the cover not to be published. More recently, DC Comics faced criticism over the recent issue of Heroes in Crisis, in which a number of people complained about the sexualization of both Batgirl and Poison Ivy. So what do you think about horrible censorship by terrible people ruining comic books?
I guess it's inevitable. This is the way comic books have been going for quite a while.
But there is hope. We have a ray of sunshine from the living human sunbeam himself, Ethan Van Sciver. We are not
the racist hate monger.
No, he's a wonderful beam of sunshine.
But everybody says not everybody, but a couple of people on the internet said he's racist and awful. They can't be all lying. All 5 of them, they can't be lying. Can they?
Well, there's actually 12 weirdos who are 12. Consistently lying. So he announced on his Twitter, Ethan Van Sciver commissions retailer-exclusive Dynamite covers with Cyberfrog. So for those of you who don't know, Ethan, when he started out in comics, made a kind of rough character called Cyberfrog. Well, when he launched off in the new phase of independent comics with a little bit of a counterculture comics crowd from Comicsgate, he's relaunching Cyberfrog, made a whole bunch of money. So now he's made a deal with Dynamite Comics. And let me read here from this article by Rich Johnston of Bleeding Cool News, who I'm often hard on Rich as a media figure, but there are moments in which I can say Rich did the right thing here. Back in the day, retailers used to commission star comic creators to draw a cover for an upcoming comic book, usually from DC or Marvel, that would be exclusive to their store. Each store would have to order thousands of copies to make it worthwhile for the publisher. Some enterprising artists realized that they could commission themselves draw exclusive covers of such comics, get the publisher to print them, and then sell them online or at shows, signed or unsigned, for a considerable markup. J. Scott Campbell, Rob Liefeld, John Tyler Christopher are among those creators who have done so the most, and soon the habit spread. At Dynamite Entertainment, which asked for a few minimum copies to be printed, then Marvel and DC, Dan Panosian did such for Red Sonja #1, as did Paulo Pantanella and other artists for different titles. The latest, it seems, is Ethan Van Sciver, no longer working for major comic publishers and fresh from last summer's very successful Indiegogo campaign for Cyberfrog Blood Honey. The comic is yet to be published. It's going to be released in a couple of months. But Ethan is now commissioning himself to draw Cyberfrog variant covers to Dynamite Entertainment titles, showing the Cyberfrog amphibian interacting with other characters published by Dynamite. At one point, Vampirella and Cyberfrog were both published by Harris Publications. And Ethan has done work for Vampirella trading cards and inked the Vampirella Shadowhawk crossover in the day. So this won't be the first time he's involved with a character, but I hear that there are more to come. One might consider Chaos, Pantheon, and other prime Cyberfrog crossover comic book cover candidates. Traditionally, creators who purchase these covers are treated the same as any retailer. Whether the creator of any books will have any say in who gets to do retailer-exclusive variant covers, I don't know. But basically, this means Ethan Van Sciver has bought hundreds of copies of the same comic with the cover he drew for a wholesale price that retailers pay, maybe around $2 each, and he gets to sell them at quite a markup. Well, it's one way to get a Cyberfrog comic out there for convention season, draw the character on the cover of someone else's comic book, and sell that. So, what do you think about this potentially gangbusters advertising trick by the Human Sunbeam Ethan Van Sciver?
I guess it'll work. I don't know. I don't comics.
But what I was showing earlier in showing Jim, they've kind of reduced the sexuality of Vampirella. So do you think Ethan, when he draws her, is gonna make her sexy?
Let's
or
hope
make
so.
her exactly?
The what is it? The cosplayer that was dressed like her. They didn't really do it for me. But once I actually saw the artwork for her in that little number, I was like, oh, that's kind of sexy and cute. And then I saw the new one, and I was like, oh, she has about as much clothes on except for the hat as Carmen Sandiego.
Now, if we go down to the Ethan Twitter link towards the bottom, the usual suspects on Twitter are coming out of the woodwork over this. Ethan Van Sciver on the Vampirella page, I'm on there saying, you run a hate group and are worried that you are doing Vampirella covers. Don't want to upset them, but it's annoying that they don't know the facts. So there are already usual suspects lining up to attack the Human Sunbeam, Ethan Van Sciver, for basically doing a high-end advertising thing. And he's also going to be doing an Indiegogo campaign to fund this, so people like me can do advanced purchases of it, and then he can sell them to stores and other people online. But there is still darkness in the comic book industry. So they did a comic book about Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh no!
So somebody snapped a picture of how they treated Nancy Pelosi in that comic book. So if you've eaten recently, you might want to turn your head away for a little bit while we look at this picture. So it's Ocasio-Cortez and the other political wrestlers in the shower. And we get to see Nancy Pelosi in the shower. And
it's disturbing.
Because that's a man's body with a wrinkled old woman's head on it.
Oh no!
Why would you do that?
I can't. Sorry. Carry on. That's too much. That's too much. Well, I was planning on having good dreams tonight. Well, I could put that idea in the trash.
So Jim, let's take a step over to a nice news source that you'll feel more comfortable with.
Woo!
Reason. Let's be reasonable with Reason. Cancel culture comes for counterculture comics. Today, it's creators, not cops, who want to banish R. Crumb, one-time king of the comics underground. So, Robert Crumb did all sorts of really grotesque, sexual, satirical, dark humor comics.
I actually know what this is.
You know what this is.
I know
Robert
what this
Crumb
is.
He's the undisputed godfather of alternative comics. His work has appeared in museums across the world, from the Venice Biennale to New York's Museum of Modern Art. He was the subject of Terry Zwigoff's acclaimed documentary Crumb, Gene Siskel's favorite film of 1994. His drawings are so coveted by collectors that a sale of some of his sketchbook in the early 90s bought him a centuries-old chateau in southeastern France. Legendary art critic Robert Hughes has favorably compared his portrayals of human grotesque to Peter Bruegel and William Hogarth, declaring Crumb the one and only genius of the 1960s underground produced individual art, either in America or Europe. Nearly every milestone of the long road comics had crawled from the decided trash to treasured American art form was inspired either directly or secondhandly by Crumb's choices and achievements. That I think is a little bit, but Crumb's not somebody you can dismiss his importance. His first issue of Zap in 1968, Crumb single-handedly invented a format and sensibility under the broad label of underground comics that permanently changed how printed cartoon stories are perceived.
He also did the album cover for Cheap Trick, right?
Yep, he did. Along the way, it opened the forum to social criticism, history, outrageous satire, and the full range of deeply personal human experience, including both lightly and darkly sexual. Crumb's occasional collaborator, Harry Picard, one of the major innovators of the quotidian comic autobiography, says his partner demonstrated that comics were good as art form as any that ever existed. You could write any kind of... He did a bunch of them.
Let me see. Go on here.
It was as versatile a medium as film or television. Similar praise from other creators for Crumb's mind-blowing importance to them could go on for pages. Anybody making non-corporate, non-genre, self-expressive comics occupies the space he created. But eventually in the comics world last year served notice that the social justice reevaluation currently sweeping comedy, film, and literature has arrived at the doorstep of free-thinking comics. In September, at the Small Press Expo Ignatz Awards ceremony in Bethesda, Maryland, Crumb's successor generation of alt artists let the 75-year-old have it with both of barrels. While presenting the award for Outstanding Artist, the cartoonist Ben Passmore, who is black, asserted that comics is changing, and it's not an accident. He lamented and continued the industry's presence of creeps and apologists. Then he called out The Godfather by name. Shit's not going to change on its own. You got to keep on being annoying about it. A while ago, someone like R. Crumb would be outstanding. The room erupted with boos and oohs. A little while ago, there'd be no boos, Passmore responded. I wouldn't be up here talking. Real talk.
Cheap Thrills.
And,
it was Big Brother and the Holding Company. Got it. So I was
also
wrong.
A good album. And the crowd burst into applause. The brief against Crumb is both specific to his famous idiosyncrasies and generally familiar to our modern culture of outrage archaeology. His art has trafficked in crude racial and anti-Semitic stereotypes, expressed an open sense of misogyny, and included depictions of incest and rape.
There we go.
Crumb's comics are seriously problematic because of the pain and harm caused by perpetrating images of racial stereotypes and sexual violence. The Massachusetts Independent Comics Expo, or MICE, explained last year when removing Crumb's name from one of its exhibit rooms.
I knew it was cheap something. There we go. Yeah. Carry on.
Gary Groth, co-founder of Fantagraphics, the premier American publisher of quality adult comics, including a 17-volume series of the complete Crumb comics. The spontaneity and vehemence of the backlash, Groth said, surprised me, and I guess what also disheartened me was I was pretty sure that the vast majority of people booing Crumb are not familiar with his work. The visceral dislike of him has no basis in the understanding of who Crumb is, his place in comics history, or his contribution to the form. Key to the misunderstanding is Crumb's willingness to probe human darkness, including his own, and his sheer maniacal delight in transgression. Crumb's own explanation for one of the more notorious incest-related strips was, I was just being a punk. The Ignatz Award Groth worries will not tolerate, and I think that's just cartooning has a long history of being transgressive and controversial and pushing boundaries, and now we have a generation very much opposed to that, who want to censure fellow artists from doing what they don't approve of, even though they are able to do what they are doing and want to do precisely because of the trailblazing on the part of some artists they now abominate. Crumb blew minds and inspired a generation with his eagerness to portray and explore the stark reality at the bottom of life, as he put it, delivering a psychotic manifestation of the grimy parts of America's collective unconsciousness. In the pursuit of that goal, he produced many comics, sometimes with reasonably clear comic grotesquity, sometimes undeniably, Crumb never denied it himself, truly dark personal expressions that would strike most people now, and many even then, as unacceptably hostile to women. Two of his most notorious stories were titled When Niggers Take Over America, and note that's a direct quote, and When the Goddamn Jews Take Over America, again, a direct quote. His fans insist that these were obvious pitch-black satires of bigoted madness, but they were so outrageous that they were reprinted in the actual American Nazi paper. Crumb told the New Yorker in 1994, I just had to expose all the myths people have of blacks and Jews in the rawest possible way to tilt the scales towards truth. So, what do you think about all this, Jim? What do you think about the decline of freedom in the world of art?
It sucks, but it's a thing.
Yeah. But you notice
and it sucks because I've actually seen some of his stuff. I got familiar with him when I was doing a little show called The Freedom Fiends, which was a nationally syndicated talk radio show that I used to be a co-host on. Not to toot my own horn, but toot. But the main host of the show, Michael W. Dean, was like a huge fan of him, and often brought him up and told us to like check out some of his stuff, and I did, and it was like, well, this is neat. I think some of it was in kind of like the what's the way of putting it? It's kind of like. Stop. Go lay down. It's kind of like in its own time. Some of the stuff you probably wouldn't understand unless you were living in that time or had an understanding of what was going on at that time, but it's still good stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of dark, edgy, At least it was at the time.
So
Yeah.
we're going to segue into something dark and edgy that's very much a part of our time, the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer.
Oh no, do we
Now,
have to?
normally on a show like this, we would be watching the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer, but you've all seen it because everybody's like going, "Oh my god, did you see that? That is so freaking terrible." So Jim, what you want to share your feelings about Sonic?
Sanix. There's also another reason why we shouldn't be playing it because Warner Brothers Music and Paramount have been going hard in the paint for copyright over this.
Yeah.
Like everybody who I know who does like reviews of trailers and stuff have tried to do like live reactions to it, and if there's like even 1 second of audio playing from it, they would get hit hard. So not even gonna bother.
So try to inculcate your emotions about that trailer.
So I mean, I didn't. I was I had an SNES. I never had a Genesis. My sister had a Genesis. I had
Mm.
friends who had a Genesis, and I played it. And it's the first 3 games are good, and so was Sonic CD. Some of them were 3D ones, not so much. Some of the spin-off ones were pretty good, like Sonic's. What was it, Sonic Pinball or whatever, Sonic Speedball or whatever it's called.
Mm.
Those are really good games, but once it got 3D, it got kind of bad. But there's like this huge kind of subculture that goes on about it. I don't want nothing to do with that because it's just as bad, if not worse, than furries. But either way, I like it enough to be like, oh, okay, a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. This could be interesting. And then you told me about it, and you said, "Oh no, it's going to be a live action thing." And I was like, "Oh no, they're turning it into the Smurfs." And wouldn't you know it?
Oh no.
Wouldn't
Oh
you
no.
know it, it made Smurfs look like Citizen Kane. Holy shit, this was awful.
So there's a new theory going on since they're saying, "Oh, we're going to fix it before the movie comes out now." That's a little thing they've teased out.
Yeah.
There's a theory some people are having that this was made so badly on purpose to trick people so that when they see an actual good Sonic, they like have a huge wave of PR to come in and see the movie.
Or maybe it was just a way to get everybody to start talking about it. Yeah.
It also could
Yeah. It's kind of almost like intentionally doing bad PR in order to get good PR to follow. Like kind of like how Nike and Keurig and Gillette, put all these little politically this isn't politically charged, but they get everybody like upset and start riling people up, and they start bashing it. But in the process, everybody's talking about your product, and by the time it comes out, or by the time a couple months down the line, everybody forgets and starts buying Nikes again, completely forgetting it. Kind of like how Jack from Twitter was on that train about like, oh, Chick-fil-A is an evil, racist, sexist, misogynistic, anti-gay sandwich company. Don't buy anything from it. Like 1 year later, look what I bought with the Cash App: a whole bunch of Chick-fil-A.
Delicious Chick-fil-A.
Oh my god, I just
So
had it
there's
like last
another
week. It was so
rumor
good.
that the guys over on Midnight's Edge have gotten from one of their sources. We're not high enough up on the YouTube hierarchy to have our own sources yet. So they have a source that says that they added that sequence that you see with Jim Carrey actually looking like Eggman because the studio executives freaked out that the movie that came to them initially, it's the first cut, didn't have anything recognizably Sonic the Hedgehog in it.
Yeah, I heard this too. From
So
the Midnight's
this,
Edge. I just happened to catch that portion of the Midnight's Edge show.
so this is potentially going to be bad, and Jim Carrey is going to be the most Jim Carrey he can be.
Yeah, and
But
it was not funny. The little sequence where he was doing the little robot thing and was playing interrupting Cal. It was just not funny.
no, it wasn't.
It was kind of cringy, in fact. And this isn't the good Jim Carrey era. This is post Man on the Moon, after he legitimately thought that Andy Kaufman has possessed his body in order to make that biography about Andy Kaufman.
So
Yeah.
there's a popular trend among anime fandom called "Is that a JoJo's reference?" Basically, JoJo references all sorts of things, so it looks like anything that's done can be a JoJo reference. And sometimes other anime creators also reference JoJo, and it turns out that the creators of Sonic may have done a JoJo reference. Sonic the Hedgehog will be getting a major makeover with its live-action movie. Hits the later this year, as the first trailer for the film has finally debuted. It's gotten a wide variety of responses from fans, widely bad. And naturally, anime fans have provided their own hilarious takes. One of the most popular games among anime fans is asking, is this a JoJo reference? Now fans can't stop thinking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure when they watch the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer. One of the most prominent moments in the trailer is when Sonic stands still while he's surrounded by a flurry of missiles. This hilariously looks like a prominent moment in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusader, in which Dio uses his stand, the world, to freeze time and throws a handful of knives at Jotaro. So stands are magic ghosts that people can channel up to do weird magic powers because anime. Testing the limits of how much Jotaro's Star Platinum can move in Dio's Stop Time, Dio throws a flurry of knives and surrounds Jotaro in the very same way. Despite being able to fight away some of the knives, Jotaro was frozen and had to accept that he was going to be stabbed by at least some of them. In such an iconic moment in the series that fans instantly recognize it everywhere. So they're saying Sonic standing there in a bunch of his missiles is a JoJo's reference, but it could also be a reference to how Sonic stands around in the old Sonic game. I'm just saying that's probably more likely.
Yeah, doesn't he do that if you idle for too long?
Exactly. So I'm guessing that's what this is all about.
Yeah, I think he's trying. It's kind of like a Quicksilver thing where he slows down so much it's almost stopped.
Exactly.
Because after this scene, he goes around and starts like dismantling all of them and hitting them like drums.
Yeah.
Which also, I might point out, is supposed to be a humorous point of the movie, which is not funny.
So, Mr. Mark Waid had an oopsie doopsie.
Oh.
So, somebody posted on Twitter, as I've mentioned before, I have some relevant information to the Meyer v. Wade case.
Oh, we're skipping
after review. Yeah, I'm skipping some of that other stuff just to keep us on time. So, on the note, I worked with Antarctic Press some years back. I was in San Antonio at the time. I was able to observe how their office was set up and organized. I also maintain a few contacts that work with them ever now. They've been following the case of Meyer v. Wade with some interest up to listening to Ricada Law's live stream covering the depositions recently. One thing that occurred to me about this was briefly mentioned in the deposition. Joey, that Ben and Joe Dunn testified about being a close friend, almost member of the family, that they were going to lose over this is Joe Wiedekins. What hasn't been aired or isn't being presented in the depositions is this. Joe Shea Wiedekins has done a lot of work for Marvel and with Wade over the years as the Guru EFX, even when he was managing editor of AP and during the period in which AP was contracted to consider publishing Jawbreakers. So Guru EFX is a digital coloring project with Marvel. So he knew that the editor-in-chief of Antarctic Press, or had reason to know, was based out of San Antonio, Texas, because they worked on projects together. Guru was instrumental in persuading the Dunns to discontinue Jawbreakers, which had the head group of colors, letters, inkers, and finishers doing in subcontract work directly for Marvel's office. This group in Guru FX specifically is an in-house coloring and lettering and inking studio that works out of the AP offices. From my understanding at the time, AP gives them workspace, and they take freelance contract work to make a living, with AP getting their services for in-house projects for near to nothing in exchange for the workspace. What is safe to say that this group does a lot for Marvel in finishing books. Whether it's inking, coloring, or lettering, they rely heavily on freelance business to eat and pay bills. Ben Dunn is currently the managing editor, as is Walgreens quit Antarctic Press to work on his Marvel comics exclusively shortly after Jawbreakers was dropped by AP. According to my sources, this happened as a result of the decision to drop Jawbreakers. It is said that Ben Dunn is fairly conservative and is very pissed about pressure to drop Jawbreakers, as he is also indicated in the deposition. So, we now have an additional level of complications going here. And this guy also posts some additional evidence showing this. So, that said, with some likely possibilities that have been looked into as part of this, did Wade have a channel / communications with Joey Wiedekins directly? And did he threaten to the continuance of the freelance work of Guru EFX if AP continued its association with Jawbreakers to either Joey or the Dunn brothers? So this could be a complication in the case when it gets to court. Was Wade, as seems likely, aware of the location of Guru EFX and Antarctic Press based on the sheer amount of work they do for Marvel? If so, it seems very unlikely that Wade was unaware that AP was located in Texas, and more likely he lied under oath.
What?
Yeah. Getting him
No,
deposed
he
is
would
likely
never.
a good idea, though he will almost certainly be hostile to Meyer's side of the case. And he is currently listed as employed by Marvel. So, what do you think? And related to this, somebody else posted a mocking tweet. Joey Wettigans, if you don't drop Drawbreakers, I'm leaving the Duns. You're like family. It'll cost us a lot of money, but we'll do it. Joey Wettigans, okay, thanks for that. Now I'm quitting to work at Marvel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you think about the potential of Mr. Mark Waid possibly being in a big oopsie doopsie for perjury? Which, if
Wait. You mean another oopsie doopsie?
another oopsie doopsie, but this one, if true, could clearly imply perjury, which would seriously damage his case once it gets to that point.
Yeah. Well, far from me to call him a liar, am I right?
But
I mean,
but
he wouldn't
internet,
lie. I mean, come on, dude. Come on, he
yeah,
wouldn't lie. Really?
but
He's a good
internet
boy. He didn't do
weirdos,
nothing.
internet weirdos are on the march elsewhere. Looking for toxic Star Wars fans, look no further to those attacking and shaming actor Mark Hamill over retweeting a cool pic. Okay, and this cool picture here is Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, and Lando all together in the Millennium Falcon. Mark Hamill, the actor who portrayed one of the most iconic figures in sci-fi, is nothing if not passionate and kind, blah, blah, blah. And so he posted this Twitter post of this image as hashtag missed opportunities. On Friday, Mark shared an opinion by retweeting a cool picture of the original Star Wars characters reunited with the hashtag missed opportunities. A photo of him riding along with the fellow cast members and friends, implying that they would have loved to have those characters together back in the Falcon one last time. It's also touching because he lost Carrie Fisher, and perhaps Hamill wishes they could have one more day with her and the cast that helped make his career. This also isn't the first time Mark Hamill has commented on these characters reuniting either. In a tweet from March 9th, he shared a beautiful photo of him and Harrison Ford embracing at the memorial of Carrie Fisher with the words, "What a Han-Luke reunion might have been like." And this was actually what was originally promised in the contract he signed with Lucasfilm for these new movies before Disney bought out Lucasfilm and he was put on the hook. So internet weirdos came after him saying, "You know that image comes from one of the alt-right portions of the fan base, right? Bad luck, sir."
What?
Yep. Wanting to have all your favorite Star Wars characters together is now alt-right hate speech. Also, notable character in the history of our show, Chuck Wendig. I adore Hamill deeply, but I wish he understood the tides and tides of bullshit this kind of thing unleashes. Some folks seem to think I'm suggesting he's not allowed to share his opinion online or something. Come on, he's allowed. I welcome his wistfulness, but this image is the one that's gone around at the Comicsgate, Gamergate, alt-righty crowd already. It stokes that audience, and the creators pay for it. So here's a thought. We have a recent example from the Sonic creators. Maybe if fans aren't happy with the product, you should, make a better product. Maybe it's a sign that your product's not good. Other one says, "I love you, Mark, but don't do this. All four of you have had some of the most amazing moments in all Star Wars, especially in the new films. Let the new cast have their time." So yeah, these weirdos attacked Mark Hamill. And Mark Hamill, in response, posted a groveling apology.
Oh no.
So I'll pick a me with Billy D, Carrison, and Harry. Posted it because I miss them. Nothing more, nothing less. I love the new cast too, and didn't mean to get everybody's knickers in a twist. Maybe I should have just posted a bunch of hashtag endgame spoilers instead. Relax and have fun, people. So, what do you think about Mark Hamill wanting to have a good Star Wars movie?
He's a bigot, obviously. I mean, we have to have garbage. because we live in a society.
It's Clown World.
This is clown
We
world.
can still
Where's
hear the
my
music from
collide?
outside.
Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. Let me open my window again. Where is it? There we go. There we go. Go on.
But yeah, this is Clown World that people are attacking Mark Hamill. And let me see here. I want to possibly cut this next bit here because we want to save some time. But for those of you out there, yeah, let's go to the video game aspect. Disney Plus is going to do a Willow series potentially. I was going to
Oh,
talk about
nice.
that. We're going to save that a little bit later. But
Oh,
Disney, you may
just
have
do it
sold
now.
me on Disney Plus already.
Please let Carl Pilkington be in it. Please.
That would be great.
That would be even better. Like he could play Val Kilmer's part. Was it Val Kilmer? Yeah, it was Val Kilmer.
Yeah, Val
He
Kilmer.
can play Val Kilmer's part, but just a stupid version of that, an even dumber version
So
of it.
somebody was commenting on the wonderful people from Vice talking about a zombie video game. Kid was a zombie, I guess, in Days Gone. They're freaks, but this is or was unmistakably a kid. Kid maybe 5 or 6 years old. I don't know their name. I don't know how they get this way. All I know is that the game said to be clear the roof and provide no options for me to deal with the situation other than coldly bashing in their undead skull, and I swung away.
What are we talking about? Where is this?
We're talking about a zombie video game. It's the first video game under video games are no longer fun. Another time that the question mark appeared on my map, the game's way of saying, hey, check this out. If you don't, the event disappears. When I got there, I found some of the people defending an outpost, not freakers, not zombies, just regular humans, but still enemies. I was told, like clockwork, I pulled out my gun and watched the corpses stack up. I was rewarded for my efforts with absolutely nothing. There's nothing special about
So
this upgrade. No,
we're skipping now. Where is this? I don't see this.
that is the first one under video game weirdos. But also, you want to post the video game weirdos picture.
Okay, I have the picture.
Yeah.
Then
It appears I just slaughtered a bunch of people trying to get by for no reason. Well, not for no reason. Again, the meter charting my progress to the next level went up a tiny bit. And this person who was responding to this said, AKA, SJW's feminists have no problem aborting fetuses without feeling guilty, but a humanoid creature that isn't human anymore and trying to eat you, nope, that's too distressing. And there are other points of evidence here of video game weirdos, but I'll just read the subtext under the picture. Why fun is no longer the most important aspect of video games. Video games are constantly evolving. The games of today are very much a far cry from the early days of video game development, where the only thing the creator had to worry about was whether or not the player was having fun. Seems this is no longer the case, as many are now choosing to use video games as the medium of choice to spread awareness about social issues and hope to bring change. We have another article here about weirdos in video games, sexualization in gaming, advocacy, and overcorrection.
hi.
Even before the April 2019 release of the 11th installment of the formerly popular fighting game Mortal Kombat was generating waves for its presentation of female characters, but the grumblings are not what one might expect. After years of being criticized for sexualizing female characters, Mortal Kombat is now under fire from fans, including women, for not allowing the female characters to be sexy enough. Did Mortal Kombat's developers overshoot the mark, or are we beginning to see a reassessment of concern that sexualized games are responsible for sexist attitudes towards women, an argument that increasingly becomes the mantra of progressive game criticism? Of course, if you keep women from looking sexy, then you're having a sex-negative attitude, and you're also anti-feminist.
Mm-hmm. So
And
I guess there's no winning here.
There is no winning. You have to obey. It's all about language and control of culture. And let's see, this other one. Ronda Rousey is now being told she's not allowed to be in the Mortal Kombat game because she refused to fight a transgendered woman. That's from Vito Gisaldi. So, suspended for his comments, though, all this, Rousey declined to fight Fox, insisting that her fellow fighter would have a physical advantage in the ring. She could try hormones, chop her pecker off, but it's still the same bone structure as a man has, Rousey told the New York Post. It's an advantage. I don't think it's fair. And last but not least, talking about these weirdos in the video game industry.
A weirdo himself in a good way.
Exactly. So Microsoft has issued guidelines about what you can and can't say when trash talking. What to avoid, Microsoft listed some examples of the stuff that isn't allowed. Get sexual threat. Can't believe you thought you were on my level. Hey, profanity. That was some serious potato aim. Get wrecked, trash. Only reason you went positive was you spent all game camping. KYS, kid. Cheap win, totally expected from a racial slur. You suck, get out of my country. Maybe they'll let you back in when your kid K/D's over 1. And Microsoft gave recommended trash talk. Get destroyed, can't believe you thought you were on my level. That was some serious potato aim. Get wrecked, though I think counting to potato could be considered offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Only reason you went positive was you spent all game camping. Try again, kid. Cheap win. Come at me when you can actually drive without running cars off the road. That sucked. Get good and come back when your K/D's over 1. So what do you think about weirdos in the video game industry?
Look, I got a Mortal Kombat arcade cabinet. I'm just going to play this from then on. I don't have to deal with any of this crap any moment. And I can say all the terrible, awful things I want because it's not connected to the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if I do play things on my Switch or online, I'm just not going to connect a voice.
Now, I'm going to skip another little topic we have here in the article to keep time. But for those of you who are interested, Pornhub is looking to buy Tumblr and reactivate its pornography. So there may be...
Bring back Tumblr.
Bring back Tumblr,
That's
exactly.
That's what they're planning on doing, is bringing it back. Cause it's...
So the return of Tumblr porn may be happening. So keep that in mind for people. I heard Tumblr porn was actually a very good place for porn. But The Atlantic has an article that explains maybe where some of these weirdos show up from. Why grown-ups keep talking like little kids. Embracing your inner child is comforting and fun and just might revitalize the English language. I recently had the honor of meeting an award-winning literary sort, a man Ryan, restrained and overall quite utterly mature, who casually referred to having gone through a phase in his 20s where he'd been pilly, that is, when he'd taken a lot of recreational drugs. The word had a wonderfully childish sound to it. Tacked on Y created a new adjective in the style of happy, angry, and silly. My writer acquaintance I recognized was not alone in bending the language this way. On the sleeper hitcom Schitt's Creek, for instance, one of the protagonists, David, speaks of game night getting yelly, and his sisters describe a love interest as homelessy. Meanwhile, back in real life, one of my podcast listeners informed me that Washington, D.C.'s gentrifier, who declared their neighborhood was no longer as shooty-stabby as it once had been. Hilly and its counterparts are not just charming one-off neologisms, they're signs of a broader shift in how Americans nowadays are putting things more and more. Adults are sprinkling their language with the language of children. Young kids tend to simplify language, leaving out verbs. Daddy home, a toddler might say as his father walks in. Or use in words in incorrect but intelligible ways. Plurals like feets and deskses are common. My daughter at age 3 described herself as a talky kind of person. The adoption of some of these linguistic tics by adults in the forms of pilly and many other terms has given rise to a register of what we might call kid speak. It's a new way of sounding real, with prominence that would challenge a time traveler from as recently as the year 2000. So what do you think about this rising trend, Jim? Do you think it's good that adults are talking like children?
They're just trying to be real with their kids? Is that what they're...
No, they're trying to be real by talking like children.
That's not real, though.
Well, these very smart people of the Atlantic think it's real.
Well, we can have... I would debate you on this, but this is a questions and answer segment, and I'm sorry, I don't want to turn this into a debate.
Some other comments, some other parts from this article.
That's a really esoteric joke. I don't think many people would get here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A generation understandably spooked by adulting may well embrace the linguistic comfort food of childlike language, and once advanced, the habit can easily make the jump to those of us more advanced in years. After all, a kid lurks inside each and every one of us, and few people are immune to the sheer infectiousness of creativity. Young people are the primary drivers of language and change, but even we olds, as the young are one to put it, like to change things up now and then. So, yeah. The argument is that people are trying to be more childlike in their thinking. That's leading to censorship and control by the government and government approved nannies. Our last little bit of news on the front of video games is Minecraft creator excluded from anniversary due to comments and opinions. Minecraft creator Marcus Notch Person, who sold the title to Microsoft for $2.5 billion in 2014, won't be part of the 10-year anniversary plans for the game because of his comments and opinions, Microsoft tells Variety. His comments and opinions do not reflect those of Microsoft or Mojang and are not representative of Minecraft. His opinions, of course, are supporting Heterosexual Pride Day and It's Okay to Be White, which, as you know, were both initiatives of the horrible place on the internet known as E-Bombs World.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Notch being punished for being our guy?
I was seeing something like this coming because he's been talking about this kind of stuff for a while. He's been really anti the whole culture war thing. He's just been like, this is all stupid. It's just a video game. Just shut up and play it. Which
Exactly.
I agree with him. I think sometimes from a PR, like if I was running a video game company, there was lots of things that he says that I wouldn't say, but that I would say just because I'm not in head of a video game company that appeals to little kids or in charge of something or a creator of it. He's not in charge of anything now. He sold it because he was like, I don't want to be involved in this. But he's got a lot of interesting perspectives outside of that as well. Like he was the one person that got me interested in like not ever wanting to sign NDAs. He was one of the early kind of people to kind of speak out, like never sign an NDA. He's been approached by many companies like, hey, we want to work with something. You sign this NDA, and he'll go on Twitter and said they wanted me to sign an NDA. I'm not doing it. I'm not ever working with this company again. So yeah,
we've gone to the darkness of the entertainment industry. So let's take a moment in the light.
Keanu call this the light.
Keanu Reeves has reportedly joined the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Oh, no.
Though the absence of a proper Fast and Furious film has no doubt left a car-shaped hole in this summer's blockbuster schedule, it appears as if the upcoming spin-off Hobbs & Shaw will provide enough action and thrills to fill the gaps. Hobbs & Shaw looks amazing, by the way. Mm-hmm. In case you haven't been keeping up, the movie places the spotlight on Dwayne Johnson's Luke Hobbs and Jason Statham's Deckard Shaw, as they will team up against new players like Vanessa Kirby, Isaac Gonzalez, Eddie Marsan, Stephen Vogt, and of course Idris Elba, who's playing the main villain of the piece. It's an enviable cast, but there seems to be one person who Universal has been keeping in the shadows, waiting until the film's release in theaters to reveal. As you will likely surmise by the title, we're talking about Keanu Reeves, who is said to have a secret role in the spin-off, but before we go any further, we should warn you that minor spoilers will follow. It's not John Wick, though.
Yeah, does anyone care about spoilers to the Fast and Furious? It's not really supposed to be about anything other than just fun. Dumb.
So Idris Elba is the primary bad guy, but the show that he was releasing this rumor here said that there's someone else behind the scenes pulling the strings, and that is Reeves' character. It's unclear how large a role he'll play or if he'll even show up during the main bulk of the film, as he could be saved for the post-credit scenes to set up the sequel. But THS claims that he is indeed involved, and from the sounds of it, he's going to have a pretty big presence in the franchise moving forward. So does Keanu Reeves being in the Fast and the Furious franchise make it more likely for you to watch these movies?
Sorry, I was distracted. What?
So does Keanu Reeves make it more likely for you to watch these movies?
No. Because that means that I would have to catch up to understand what the heck is going on, because they're on, 9 now? This is 9?
Yeah, but literally none of the things that happened in the previous movies really matter.
Okay, well, maybe...
The movies will...
But... From what I've... Okay, so I saw the first one, and then I started watching Tokyo Drift, and I was like, no, this is not me. This is not for me. But from what I can kind of surmise from this movie, Keanu Reeves would be a good fit in there, because, he's really good at action scenes and things that blowing up and jumping out of things and shooting people. Like, this is right up his alley. This is what he's made for. He's not supposed to be a serious, hardcore, dramatic actor. He's supposed to be...
Though he can be.
Ish. I wouldn't say he's the best actor. But he has like a certain type of acting skills that would lead him to movies like The Matrix, as bad as that was. Come at me, bro. Um, or good movies like John Wick. The John Wick movies. Those are kind of
Mhm.
his alley, just where he can kind of
Yeah.
like Tom Cruise, I guess. Yeah, kind of like Tom Cruise.
So,
Yeah.
so the last article before we start to get into the review section.
Okay.
Box office. Star Wars 9 must prove that The Last Jedi didn't ruin Star Wars. From Scott Mendelson, a person who says The Last Jedi is a really great Star Wars movie. But even Scott Mendelson knows he has to make a little comment here. This past Monday was the 3-year anniversary of the domestic release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Saturday was the 1-year mark of Star Wars The Last Jedi, and today will be 1 year until the domestic debut of the untitled Star Wars Episode 9. Scott recently re-released this due to all the hoopla and brouhaha over Avengers Endgame and all of its money. So Scott is postulating that Star Wars The Last Jedi sequel, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, has to make more money than The Last Jedi to be deemed successful in North America. And he's also, by implication, saying it needs to do better than Avengers Endgame. We know it's going to fail at that goal. We don't even have to have a discussion about that because Avengers Endgame is probably going to blow Avatar out of the sky. So what do you think? Is The Last Jedi going to make not enough money to prove that Ryan Johnson didn't ruin Star Wars and make us argue with each other for a year of our lives about how terrible his movie was?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm trying to think of. There's got to be some movie out there that everybody thought was terrible, and then it was followed up by something where it put everything into perspective. I can't think of any. But there has to be something. So I mean, it's theoretically possible. Maybe they could be explaining things and retconning things in certain ways, or maybe using time travel. Oh, then again, Endgame did bring some value out of Dark World.
Exactly.
So maybe it's possible, and they have the same forces at work that has pulled something like this off just recently. So yeah, I guess okay, it's possible. Doubtful.
You're pressing X?
It's, very lightly. I'm
A
pressing it,
lowercase X.
yeah, and I'm having to think about it before I press X. It's not immediately just slamming my Xbox controller. It's just
So now it's
lightly
time
tapping.
to kick into the review section of our show.
Yeah.
We're going to start off with some comic books. Some little quick comic book reviews. So Marvel right now has a ginormous event comic going on, which has multiple crossover
Is this
titles.
the right one? War of the Realms.
War of the Realms.
Okay, cool.
So
Star Wars, the Dark World.
Brian Edward Hill, who is one of my favorite comic book writers and is actually a bro on Facebook. He wrote an issue of the series called this exact one. I actually got the variant cover,
Hold
so
on.
this is not the cover I
Implying
have.
Dad Bod Thor is bad. Carry on.
So what happened is, the villain from Thor: The Dark World, ironically enough, ends up successfully taking over Earth, and the Avengers are tasked with freeing the planet from the bad guys. And this little Strike Force team has a simple task. They have their own dark Bifrost, so you have to go murder the people protecting it and blow it all up. So Freya is tasked to set up a team, and Captain America tells her the one person who's willing to do this sort of a mission is Frank Castle. And it's all about, what drives Frank Castle, what makes him a person who does horrifically dark things but not be evil. But also Frank has no illusions that he's a good person. And he earns the respect of Freya, and he and his team have to face their own inner darkness to be able to go off and battle the Dark Elves. And you do not need to understand the event comic or know about all the crossover issues to have a good time reading this comic book.
Could you say the same thing about Endgame?
No,
No, okay.
I think you have to have been along the ride for Endgame.
Thor Lebowski was great. How dare you?
Thor Lebowski is growing on me.
Yeah.
I have some issues with him getting fat, but if he was just like the dude but not fat, I could have been more on board. So we have another little retro comic. So Rob Liefeld has made a comic in a pure '90s vein called Major X, and I wasn't able to get the first comic because it was sort of a sleeper. My comic shop and a lot of others didn't buy a whole lot of copies. I'm probably going to be another couple of months before I get the first issue. So the second issue was really a lot of setting up things and setting up a lot of the contrivances of different factions and different time travel factions. It was a headache. This one was a real treat to read because it was full of action, 90s style action, and it was with a improved Rob Liefeld art style. Writing was good and solid. I also have a different cover. I think that's the variant cover for the thing.
Oh, okay.
And
This
a little
works.
character, early Deadpool, is featured at the end of the comic because this is all set in the 90s, which is apparently the best decade in modern culture. So we're going to flip the reviews around a little bit because you recently binged An Idiot Abroad, one of my favorite TV shows.
Incorrect. But we'll talk
Incorrect?
about it. Yeah, because I ended up having to binge another show, which we were going to talk
that's
about at the
right.
end. So
let's
just talk about the first 3 episodes that I did see. And basically just kind of introduce this show because I'm going to talk about, maybe I'll do like 3 episodes every show.
I like that idea.
Yeah, let's just do the first 3 episodes every week, and then I'll talk about them briefly. And I don't want to get too much into it because basically when you talk about comedies, you're basically going to end up having to turn into, I like the funny thing that happened here, and then you go and see it and you're like, oh, I already knew about that funny thing that happened there because I just heard Jim talk about it on Recording in Progress. So we don't want to do that.
Exactly.
So I'll just basically kind of summarize what was going on here. So this
Ricky
show,
Gervais and Stephen Merchant,
yeah,
they have done like radio shows and TV shows together, and
yeah, most notably,
Carl is one of their...
most notably The Office and the
Yeah.
Ricky Gervais show, which by the way, if you haven't seen those are great. The original UK version.
Yeah. And Carl was like one of their sidekicks, basically.
Yeah, he was like I think he was the audio engineer for XFM for their radio show.
Yes.
Which existed before The Office, and they found out very quickly that Carl Pilkington was like a real life version of Homer Simpson. Really stupid, but in a very good-hearted yet comedic timing perfect way. He was hilariously stupid. And so they started bringing him slowly onto the show, their radio show, and basically he ended up becoming the star of the show. So when you listen to the Ricky Gervais show in any of its incarnations that's on YouTube, you're basically watching the Carl Pilkington show. And they always insult him and make fun of him and have him answer questions and stuff like that. And he always says something stupid, but it's hilariously dumb. So what they ended up doing is they worked for a TV channel in the UK called Sky One. I believe it's Sky Number. Let's call it Sky. And they were
Sky's a private TV show.
Okay.
Channel.
So they were like, I have this brilliant idea. Maybe we can get him to broaden his mind a little bit more because he's such a homebody, and like the furthest he's ever been is like his little vacation home up in Wales. Maybe we can get him to, because they're British in case you haven't noticed. Like maybe we can get him to explore the world and broaden his mind a little bit more. But they kind of did it in a practical joke kind of a manner. So instead of just saying like, here you go see this one beautiful thing and tell us what you think, they put him in all kinds of awkward situations, living conditions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And basically the show is kind of him being an idiot in a very foreign place where he's very uncomfortable in the situations that he's in, and him reacting to it, and it's fucking hilarious. So the first 3 episodes of the first season that I've been watching was China, India, and Israel / Jordan. So the first episode was him going to go because they wanted him to go see kind of like all the big major things around the world, all the natural or not the natural wonders, but all the what do they call them? Wonders of the world.
Seven Wonders of the World.
Yeah, well, most of the actual seven wonders are non-existent. I think the only one that actually exists is the pyramids and the Great Wall. Either way, so just all the kind of current wonders of the world that still exist and go and travel around them. So he went to go see the Great Wall, and he quickly learned that the Great Wall that exists now, that's a big tourist trap, was actually built in the 80s. And he was complaining the whole time about how, like, oh, if you go to the real wall, like it's a shit show and you can barely walk on any of it because it's all dilapidated and poor. If the council was here today, would they just shut it all down? And him basically kind of reacting to Chinese culture when they were like eating scorpions or getting like massages where he's catching on fire and his kind of reactions to it. But at the same time, like I had a friend who started watching the first episode with me, who was kind of like uncomfortable with the fact that like he and he understands, like, yeah, he's just too stupid to understand it, but it is kind of insulting to their culture as well because he's just kind of like bashing on a lot of things, which I can understand that criticism of. But at the same time, Carl Pilkington's so entertaining to me, I'm willing to overlook that. It's really great. The next episode...
He's a very naturally funny guy.
Yeah, he's naturally stupid and funny. And which, by the way, I also should point out that they sent him on this first season of the show and said, like, you're gonna do a travel show, have fun. And then when he got back and they produced it and they released it, that's when he found out the show was called An Idiot Abroad. So it really kind of lays into the whole practical joke side of this. So India, he went to go see the Taj Mahal. And his basic reaction to seeing the Taj Mahal before he actually seen it, when they were presenting it to him, like, here's where else you're going to go, was to say, like, he must have did something terrible because, like, if I come home with roses, my girlfriend will be like, all right, what have you done? And if I built the Taj Mahal, she's like, all right, seriously, what have you done? So, like, that was kind of his interpretation of something this majestic and beautiful, something that took 20 years to build, and he built it because he was saddened by the death of one of his wives,
and it was actually a half completed masterpiece. There was going to be a second Taj that was going to be built next to it, that was going to be his. It was going to be made out of black stone, and the two are going to be side by side. There's going to be like light play and stuff,
and it never happened. Sad face.
But he bankrupted his kingdom by the time he finished the first one, so there wasn't money to build a monument to himself in his own death.
Oh, sad. But at least he did what's important. So it's basically him kind of dealing with India. And in India, he had some even worse living conditions, especially considering that there's no toilets. They just had little squat holes. He wasn't particularly happy about it. They joked with him at first, thinking that he was going to be staying in the back of a kebab shop, sleeping on the floor. And they were like, "No, psych, your mom's rides bike. Come with us. We have a place for you to stay." Dealing with what are they called? Gurus, like religious gurus and stuff like that, and seeing them like tie their penises around sticks, and him being like very uncomfortable with the whole situation. So that one was pretty good. But I think so far, of the three that I've seen so far, the Israel Jordan one was probably the best, because that was the one where they surprise kidnapped him, where Islamic terrorists kidnapped him as part of an extreme, what do they call it, an extreme scenario?
Just a prank,
demonstration.
bro.
Yeah, it was just a prank, bro. And they sent him a message like, oh, we forgot to mention that we're going to be doing this thing to you, so I hope you get this message in time. Yeah, right. And he was scared out of its wits. He almost pissed himself. It was so good.
Yeah.
But basically him going to Israel and not understanding all of the the traditions and the history of all these great things that are great Jewish kind of monuments and stuff, like the Wailing Wall and stuff like that. He just couldn't wrap his head around, like, why are people putting trash into the wall? So this is a beautiful show, and I can't wait to watch more. However, I had to binge something else before we can get to it, but I think maybe 3 episodes is probably good. If you haven't seen this show, it's really great, and it should be even more interesting once we get into season 3, because there's A little bit more of a surprise.
There's a little surprise in season 3.
Yeah.
So
So
I
someone said
was
in the chat that Carl Pilkington isn't dumb. He's as pragmatic as possible to the point of endearing. I've considered at one point whether or not Carl Pilkington isn't an idiot, but is so smart that our stupid monkey brains perceive him as being stupid because we can't wrap around his head around his logic. For instance,
exactly.
the example that I love bringing up is in his diary he listed like a bunch of deadly animals and insects that live in Australia and said these are the few reasons why I would never go to Australia. He's like what like and the reason I have for like all the most dangerous creatures living in Australia, like I have a theory about it. And the theory goes like most of these types of creatures live under rocks. The Earth is a giant rock, and Australia is at the bottom of the big rock. So maybe he is absolutely brilliant, but our monkey brains can't perceive it because he's on different levels. It's kind of like seeing a four-dimensional being in 3D or three-dimensional
Exactly.
being in 2 dimensions. So maybe
So
not probable, but maybe.
before we caught up on the other show that's going to be our capstone for today, I wanted to watch this again, but it would have cost me $22.95 to get the rights to watch the whole season on digital. It was a ridiculous price, and it was like $6 for watching each individual episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I didn't. But it is a television series on Amazon, and got to talk about my experience with Amazon Prime's actual original product. So, Grand Tour isn't really an original product when we get right down to it. Grand Tour was the guys from Top Gear basically taking the fact that none of the show's intellectual property to speak of was significantly unique, so they just did the same show as always and kind of thumbed their nose up at the BBC. And their show's all about a bunch of guys talking about cars, a bunch of guys driving around about cars, and mocking foibles of modern culture. Has very high production values, but it's basically the same show they did before.
Yeah.
And I watched Alpha House, which was one of the early Amazon original TV shows, along with Grand Tour,
But
which
is this like a spinoff of oh
Top
god
Gear?
no Alpha House? Isn't this a spinoff
Oh,
of Evan
no.
Almighty? Because it kind of
No,
looks
so
like
Alpha
Evan Almighty.
House is so historically, not so much nowadays. Members of Congress and the Senate used to room together in boarding houses. So what they had was, as the fictional conceit for this series, what if a group of senators have a boarding house and they're all Republicans? And so that's the premise for the show, and it's about the various foibles of these members of Congress as they're going about things. Now you're looking at this, you have a major actor right here, John Goodman, and there's some other higher end talents there, and there's like decent production values, but the show really lacks something. One of the things it really lacks is it doesn't actually do nuanced political humor. It's very much, man, Republicans are so stupid and crazy and evil. It's just silly.
So this
And
is
even
before
when
he lost a lot of weight, though, huh?
Yeah, this was before Goodman lost a lot of weight.
So how long has Amazon Prime original stuff been around? Because
This show started in 2014.
he was skinny in Red State, which was a great movie.
Yeah. So you have here like a Marco Rubio type guy who's also a sex addict. And you have a fake black Republican. And you have a Mormon from Nevada who's secretly gay. That's the joke.
Oh, I see.
So it had very good production values, but it was very, very badly thought out. For like, people were making jokes about Republicans who probably have never met one.
They'll put it.
And then I watched one of the newest TV series they've rolled out, which is called Hannah, which is loosely based off of the movie Hannah, about a little girl who's turned into a secret intelligence asset who goes around violently killing. Top-notch production values and qualities, but the performances are all just flat. And there's no real visual identity or stylistic identity in any of this. And that's kind of what struck me about Amazon Prime Television as a product. because just like with what we've explored with pickle picking, Amazon will put anything on. But it says Amazon will put anything on. It's all kind of awash in a giant wall of noise, both visual and auditory noise. And that makes it kind of awkward to want to buy their product and pay money for it, especially since Disney Plus is going to have a really compelling product out there real soon.
I'm just hoping that maybe the Culture series turns out to be good. The Tick is good. I just haven't got around to finishing the last 2 episodes because, as you'll see in this next one, I had to spend a lot of time binging on this particular show. And then we'll get to the Tick. Don't worry.
I'm going to announce that, unlike Jim, I have a theater that has something good and special available. So there's going to be some extra Weeb content next week on the show.
No. Oh, no.
So Code Geass has a new movie out, Lelouch of the Resurrection, and that movie is going to be coming to a theater near me on Sunday, and I plan to go see that. So here's the summary. In the second year of the co-op period, the world has united around the reorganized United Federation of Nations and has enjoyed days of continuing peace, but now that peace suddenly comes to an end. Suzaku, while traveling as the Masked Man Zero, accompanying Nunnally on her visit to the refugee camp, is defeated by a mysterious Nightmare Frame, which is a giant robot, and the two of them are taken away. Following secret orders from Schnitzel, Colin Lloyd, and Psycho, infiltrate Zilkistan, the land of warriors, where they have been attacked by the mysterious Geass user. There in Zilkistan, they'll meet a person named CC, known to the assailants as the former master. Is the indomitable kingdom which once was conquered even the great army of Holy Britannia. What do people desire, hope, or despair? People of Zikistani Palace certainly know of Geass. What are they and CC planning?
So when you go see this, are you going to bring your waifu pillow?
I don't have a waifu pillow. But I'm going to go see this. So I'm going to go see this because you don't often get anime movies in America. You have to stream them. And I really enjoy going to the movie theater. It's a fun thing. I would like, a real-life waifu pillow to watch movies with. Although women probably don't like being referred to as a real-life waifu pillow. So maybe that's why I don't have one. I don't know.
Well, if Shiny were here, she would vehemently disagree with you. She would love to be called an IRL waifu.
Well, an IRL waifu is fine, because that's just a wife. But a waifu pillow, that means that you're making them into a sex object.
Well,
I'll ask. Object you have sex with.
I'll ask.
So, now, the cherry on top of our show today, the Orville Season 1 and 2 retrospective. Now, we've talked about the show a bit, and Jim's watched bits and pieces, but since the second season ended, I kind of wanted to take everything in and talk about it. So, Jim, give us a little tale about your catching up on the Orville.
All right, so I've had... No one asked you shit. I've had some kind of mixed views about Star Trek throughout my life. I wasn't a big fan of the original series. I haven't been a fan of anything else. The way I've always viewed Star Trek is that damn show that kept me from watching The Simpsons growing up. So, my perspective wasn't. It was very biased. It wasn't very objective. It was just kind of like, God damn it, I want to watch The Simpsons, and this show is preventing me from watching it. But as I've grown up, and watching the Star Trek movie, the ones where things are blowing up and shit, I started going back and watching The Next Generation, and I was like, this isn't so bad. This is actually pretty good. Not good enough for me to like binge watch and catch up, but I every once in a while I'll catch myself watching an episode here and there, and slowly moving through the seasons, very slowly, and it's pretty good. I definitely regret is the right word. So coming from someone who wasn't really big into Star Trek, still really not into Star Trek, this was on face value something that I was definitely not interested in, because I don't like Family Guy, I don't like Seth MacFarlane, and I am not the biggest Star Trek fan. So there was really nothing calling me to watch this. But you persisted, Larry. You persisted that I check the show out, and boy, am I glad I did, because I think this might actually be the one great thing that Seth MacFarlane has done. This show is fucking amazing, and I binge watched the first season and got distracted during second season stuff. But then I caught up and binge watched it, and now I'm completely caught up. And holy fuck, this probably is the best thing that I've seen on TV in quite some time. It's fucking great. STO is brilliant. I don't know what that is. What is Star Trek?
Star Trek Online. It's a cool game.
Okay.
So my relationship with Star Trek was I grew up watching the OG and in the syndication. I saw bits and pieces of the animated series. Then, I really got into it with The Next Generation and have been along with the ride for a while. Mm-hmm. But then Star Trek kind of went in the toilet with Voyager, and then, the final nail got put in the coffin by Enterprise. And I didn't hate the J.J. Abrams movies. I didn't care for them, but I didn't hate them. And then Star Trek Discovery happened, and that was terrible, but it was put on a paywall service that I wasn't going to pay for, so that didn't mind that so much.
Okay.
So the Orville came out, and I thought, oh my god, Seth MacFarlane making Star Trek with dick jokes?
No.
Well, oh my god, he did kind of make Star Trek with dick jokes, but it was like good dick jokes. Dick jokes that actually enriched the story.
Yeah.
And Enterprise was fine, but there was like the whole temporal Cold War arc was really terrible. The Xindi arc was good, but then they had to finish off the temporal Cold War arc, which was terrible. And they didn't skip straight to the Romulan War arc, which was the payoff money shot. But that has to do with a lot of things about how Paramount Pictures is run by people who are terrible and don't love money.
Yeah. But
so
moving
what
on.
I love about this show is how it's such a great character-built show.
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't expect it to be being Family Guy. Which I thought was kind of interesting. All of the characters have except for maybe one, all of them have really kind of deep kind of thought that was put into each and every single one of them. So Seth MacFarlane plays Captain Ed Mercer, who is the Orville ship commander, who basically only got the position because his ex-wife Kelly Grayson, basically petitioned for him to get his own ship, and he wanted to do it too. So. And so they're basically kind of like an Enterprise kind of ship, and they're going around seeking new life and new civilizations and blah 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 blah. And but at the same time, they end up becoming a taxi service for most of the show. And he even mentions that at one point.
That's a typical Star Trek plot, though.
Yeah. So yeah, so you have there's the doctor. I forget her name. Penny. Is it Penny? No.
The doctor's actually interesting as an actress because
Penny's her real name. Here it is. Dr. Claire Finn. There we go.
Right.
And Gordon
Penny
is great.
Actually, mm-hmm. Yep. Penny actually was a character on Deep Space Nine. She played Ben Sisko's wife.
Oh, okay.
Oh, also, Micro, they're working on getting Patrick Stewart on the show.
Oh, okay.
They've
had everybody else so
figure
far.
that out.
They pretty much had everybody else so far from all the shows.
Yeah, they've been trying to line that up.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like is how the arc of Kelly and Seth MacFarlane's character, who it's a good character, don't get me wrong, but it's Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah. It's
like Seth MacFarlane in a good sci-fi future. How the arc of their relationship has played out repeatedly over the show. And each time they're revisiting how that relationship builds them both into better people and allows them to do great things, which is neat. But how great is the character of Bortus throughout the whole show?
I love Bortus. I think the key, not the key, but the highlight for me was when him and his boyfriend were taking up smoking.
That was a great comedy thing. Also great for comedy is Bortus almost killed everybody by infecting the ship with a virus he got because he was downloading illicit porn.
Yeah, a computer virus. No.
We've all been there. Also interesting, and it's kind of unclear as to why it happened. The actress who plays Alara, who's featured in this picture because that's a season 1 picture, she had to leave partway through season 2. but she was back for the finale. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was just kept secret, so it would be like a really cool moment for the finale, or whether like it had something to do with the schedule for a movie she was in. Kind of been unclear. They also did several things, like they have the robot race there with Isaac, who's in the background there. They did a lot of Borg plots with Isaac and his race, but they did it better than Star Trek did the original Borg plot.
Mm.
And
I guess I haven't got to the Borg stuff yet. Next Generation.
and Lamar there. Well, actually, you did. You said I thought you said you finished the whole thing for season 2.
No. I'm talking about Star Trek.
Oh, it's Star Trek. Okay.
Next Generation. I haven't.
So, like, the engineer didn't want to be the engineer because that would involve him giving up that he was smart.
Mm-hmm.
And people on his planet, like, you know, you don't tell people you're smart. And also, they have a drunken Irish pilot.
Yeah,
who's the best pilot.
I will say
a great character.
I will say Lamar is probably the least hashed out character. He's like the one character that I'm kind of like on the fence about. He's likable,
ladies' man.
Yeah, he's likable, but at the same time, it's like.
And also, they have a character played by Norm Macdonald, who's a kind of sexually harassy slime mold creature.
He's actually a slime ball.
Slime ball.
Do you get it? That's the
exactly.
joke. Yeah.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
But his character has one of the biggest heroic turns in the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
And like literally everything comes down to his character, which is great. It's like, hey, we're gonna insert this joke character here. Okay, y'all think it's a joke character? You think it's a joke character? Okay. Now he saves a small child, saves the whole ship, saves the galaxy.
And saves Isaac.
It saves Isaac. So this show has some of the best writing. It's not necessarily... The dialogue's not necessarily at the top end, but the writing is very well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
And everything goes from the characters, which is what makes it one of the best things to watch on TV today.
Yeah. And I also have to give it credit because it really did its homework when it came to The Next Generation, because even the way it like cuts to commercials and comes back from commercials and scene to scene, like it's very much directed in the style of Star Trek. It's almost like you're watching it. Honestly, like if Star Trek came in and said like, oh no, this is all part of the Star Trek universe and we're just going to go and do some minor edits to edit the logos and everything, I'd be okay with this because it would fit so well.
Well, here's a fun thing. This was actually pitched as a show.
Oh,
and yes, Micro, this does have payoffs. It's one of the things that makes it great. But yeah, no,
everything gets paid off.
Seth and Ronald Moore pitched this to CBS as a show, and they told him no, and so they basically said, "Fine, we'll make our own Star Trek with blackjack and hookers."
In fact, forget the show. No, okay, we'll do the show. Yeah, I think Isaac is probably Isaac and Bortus are the two characters that I really enjoy the most out of all of them. Yeah, Malloy comes in pretty close, but those two are the ones.
My female friends who are like really into the show, they all love Isaac. I don't really understand that. I mean, he's a robot and he's modular, so
and he has well because he has no emotions.
Yeah. And that's something interesting. All of his other shows have basically been cookie cutter formulas, but this one wasn't.
Yeah. There's a lot of multi-show arcs, seasonal arcs, episode arcs.
And a lot of creators who don't like the direction of Star Trek, who have Star Trek roots, have come into the show. And they've only just recently started getting merchandise for the Orville off the ground.
No, I need to get some.
Yeah. So, this is a lot like Galaxy Quest in a way, which is going to get an Amazon series at some point in time.
Oh, please.
It's like, we're going to have a tongue-in-cheek, satirical, but also love letter to Star Trek, and it's going to be better than Star Trek. Even though my personal relationship with Galaxy Quest was when I looked at Tim Allen's character passed out after drinking half of a bottle of Glenfiddich, I called him a lightweight. Even though I can't get away with drinking that much delicious scotch anymore because I'm trying to watch my weight. Scotch.
Ardbeg. Oh, I got look right here. Keep going.
Yeah. So I mean, so yeah, we're talking about how great the Orville is because we've done a review for the second season, and really the way they left it at the end of the second season is literally anything can happen for the third season.
Mm-hmm.
Second season didn't really have a plot to speak of. It
I
was
think
all about character moments.
Yeah, I think they were probably still trying to get a feel for what the show was going to be about in the first one, and but I mean, even still, they did a fantastic job. The first season is amazing. The second season is just a little bit more amazing now that they understand what they're doing a lot better. Yeah.
By the way, Jim, what was our hype watermark for the show? Because we're up to 10 people watching live right now.
10. We're just back up to 10 is all. We actually had a
All
10
right.
earlier too. So yeah.
Yeah. So
Your plastic pal who's fun to be with. Yeah.
and also the cell phone episode with Malloy was really good.
Yeah.
Like
That was
like
really
how
good.
you could create a near perfect clone of somebody out of their cell phone, but if you take that one thing away, then they stop being a person.
Yeah. Yeah, so they really do kind of explore kind of very deep philosophical kind of concepts, even though
It's
they,
honest to goodness sci-fi.
yeah, like, but they don't do it like, this is what's called the grandfather paradox. This is what's called the chaos,
No.
the butterfly effect. Like they're like, they just basically explain the principles to you in a storyline that makes it fun and interesting to learn about. And then you can go like, oh, well, what was that episode about with Malloy and that girl? Oh, the butterfly effect. Oh, okay, well, it's interesting. Yeah. So, really good. Really, really happy with this.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the third season, and I really think, they should possibly start to cook up an idea for a movie. Because, we're not going to be having any good Star Trek movies for a while.
We're probably not going to have any for a while, which is unfortunate because the last Star Trek movie was really fucking good, but no one saw it. So, because everybody was so disappointed by the second one. So,
it had the right tone and everything, but it was unfortunately too little, too late.
Yeah, I do like the idea of having was it sabotage? Playing to distract all of to disrupt all the navigation for those.
And that made sense, unlike Gangsta's Paradise being played during the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer.
Yeah.
Don't confuse people by playing weird music. Also, in addition to increasing our Weeb content, next episode, I'm also getting my official load from Free Comic Book Day, unless there's an oopsie doopsie at my comic book store.
Free load.
I'll have to do like a sort of like a shotgunning review of the various and the sundries.
Nice. Well, I already got my haul from Record Store Day, so
exactly
take that. Which I reviewed all of them, didn't I? Oh, I haven't. We didn't do Tiny Tim. We need to do it next week. We don't have time.
Well, we could review Tiny Tim
next,
especially since you've been working on tiptoeing.
Yeah. Been working on my ukulele.
Although it's really hard to get Tiny Tim's voice.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull that one off. But anyway,
the range to get to. So you gonna play us out, Jim?
No. I want to keep our audience.
So that's recording in progress, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up, and now it's time to stop the recording and let the progress flow on through.
Do we have to
worms, I guess, or we should do what we ended with on the last stream we did. Hail worms.
Hail worms.